One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Welcome to the Quiet Storm. I don't know, growing up when I was in high school, the nighttime DJ would have the Quiet Storm. Well, I don't think this is going to be anything quiet whatsoever. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't go ahead and produce a pre-show for this. This is just going to be a lot of us talking and waiting for the speakers to come out. So I can tell you by the look of the set. Let me see if I can bring the set up so I can just show you. This guy has been singing for some time, so hold on.
We hide it?
All right.
I never thought I'd get to be on a stage like this. This is incredible, my friends, and I'm...
So this guy was a comedian entertainer, but you can see the set. All it is two leather chairs sitting there, and one is going to have Tucker, and the other is going to have Trump or RFK Jr. or whoever else they're bringing out on stage tonight. It's going to be somewhat relaxed setting, but I don't think it's going to be that relaxed because the audience right now is about 19 or 20,000 people strong that are going crazy, absolutely crazy. As long as this guy doesn't sing, I can show you some of it.
Different with your life. As a kid, I thought I'd be an NBA basketball player. That's literally what I thought. And one day I was walking down the hall in my high school feeling good about myself, and the voice accidentally came out because I was so happy. I started singing in the hall. You know, when you're a kid, you're just singing in the hall at school like,
Yeah, see, so he's an entertainer. Pretty good, actually, pretty funny. But the people here don't allow even people to be singing songs that other people own. So I can't show it, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what to expect tonight. So get your ice cream bowl, maybe, some coffee, muffin, crumb cake, all the stuff I can't eat, and just relax and understand this is going to be a little bit different, which I have to say, after everything that's been going on, isn't it nice to just be able to sit back amongst friends and hear a bunch of speakers tonight who are going to be probably fired up because, in Tucker, when Tucker starts talking and everything he says, he can be really funny. Really funny. And of course, Trump can't. So I don't know who the other speakers are. I did see let me see if I can go to his site and I could pull it up for you. Tucker Tour, and see who else is supposed to be on here tonight. But even though Trump isn't one of the people on to, he's not on till probably later. I'm seeing who else he's got on. Tonight is the last show. I'm scrolling, looking for the dates here. Just about every show on the tour sold out, and I'm looking to see who's playing tonight. I don't see who's playing tonight. I'm looking. The Trump event. Okay, here's the Trump event. So let me just show you. Doesn't say on here who else is going to be on stage with him tonight. So maybe it is just Tucker. Oh no. Okay, here we go. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you, and you guys can take a look at, so you know what's coming up. Where are we? Here we go. We got this. This is the final event on Tucker's tour. It says, join Tucker for a live interview with President Trump just days before the election. Will feature opening remarks with RFK Jr., Senator Mike Lee, and other surprise guests. So I don't know who the other surprise guests are, because obviously they wouldn't be surprised, would they? So we're going to see who else. Maybe it's more Avenger stuff. Maybe, I don't know who's out there. Maybe Tulsi. I don't know. But we do know Mike Lee, senator from Utah. We do know RFK Jr. We do know President Trump. And we do know that Tucker. So who else? Not really sure, and don't have the schedule of the time. I just decided to log on and figure I would watch the screen, see what's happening. We would all relax, have a big deep breath after a really trying last couple days of being called garbage and telling our women that they're stupid and weak. And then tonight we can just relax and enjoy this. I think it's going to be fun. I think you're going to have a good time. I just think that's what this is supposed to be tonight. So, that being said, until somebody comes on stage and actually is somebody I can cover, I'm just going to talk to you guys. We're going to go in and take some comments and see what people want to talk about. See, this would be perfect if I had my call-in show. Like earlier, I asked you guys, hey, do you have a camera, a webcam, some lights, a microphone, or do you have a well-lit room if you grab your phone? Because one of the things I'm thinking of is basically having some dial-in. If I gave you a number right now, how many of you would be willing to dial in front of a camera setup? Have enough. It's nighttime. It's 9:50 p.m. Do you have lights set up someplace in a bright room in your house or something where if you had a number to call in, you could come on in and talk? That's what I want to do. See, I might do a nighttime show where it's something like that, where people can call in and give us your opinion. But for right now, let's go ahead and take some comments. Oops. What happened? Hold on. Good to be back. Why did that not show up? 1 second. Did I not click the bite button? Okay. Hello from Florida. Hello from Florida. Somebody says, we're mad about the migrant flights. Open border liberals should look in the mirror to see who's really breaking the law. Then they never look in. Well, Barron Trump, they never look in the mirror. Somebody said Barron Trump could be the special guest. That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. Can I do Zoom? Yeah, I could probably do Zoom. And we could do a Zoom call where we could push buttons. Now, understand, Ashley and Rick Adams and a few other people have been doing spaces in the private community, our membership community, which is free. And it's over 7,000, almost 7,100 by now. And that went really well. They do like a coffee thing in the morning, and there's 700 people showed up this morning, so it was pretty cool. Hello from Littleton, Colorado. Thank you. See, it's only what? 6:55 where you are. It's early in the evening. Do you have dinner yet? I see so much cheating going on. Are we going to lose? Well, I do see a lot of cheating going on, but I also see a lot of people getting caught, and I see some expedited court movement. So, they're shutting it down as fast as they can do it, but they are doing some really, really, really underhanded crap, man. Welcome, USA Politics. Happy to have you. Good morning from communist England. Wow, I wonder what time it is over there. Like midday or something? What time is it in England? I voted 2 weeks ago in Ohio. Red all the way. Very good. Blessings from Houston, Texas. People checking in. Yeah, they're getting caught. That's one of the things that's happening. There's a lot of technology out there right now, especially because of what Elon has brought to the table. And there's a lot of eyeballs, and there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of communication. So they're getting caught over and over and over. I mean, to the point where that's also at some point has to influence judges when they're seeing such a volume of people cheating. I'm just wondering, do judges see all this stuff in the news and go, this is crazy? And hey, here's a lawsuit for here. And Trump walks in with a $10 billion lawsuit today against CBS. Now understand, he may not ever win that lawsuit, but the fact that he sued CBS, not just CBS News, all of CBS, which is probably Paramount. I don't know who owns CBS. I think Paramount owns CBS. But anyway, $10 billion is a lot of money. That gets your attention. And you're going to have to defend it. And I don't know how you defend that. You've already admitted to doing it. You already admitted to basically chopping up Kamala's tape for her benefit. What is the crime? How is Trump wronged? That might be hard to prove. You're going to have to prove that it was some sort of election interference or that he wasn't given the same opportunity. But in any event, discovery should be quite good. You see, once they file that lawsuit and now they get into court and they say, well, we're going to need a copy of all your documentation. I need to have all your communication with the Harris campaign. Maybe we'll see a settlement real quick. They're not going to want that to come out. I'm in Chicago, and we got a tyrant in the mayor's office that needs to be gone. I don't know how these people get placed in these roles. I just don't. I mean, obviously, it must be cheating there too. The world is watching. Indeed, they are. And indeed, they are. I saw a TikTok video of a person trying to vote for Trump using a touchscreen. It would let the voter select Trump and automatically selected Harris. Yep, saw that. That's all over X. People are showing that too. Don't worry, the cheating is being contained. 200 lawyers. Where'd that go? Where did that go? I just saw his comment. And then oh, here it is. Why did it not show up? Let me try it again. 200... I don't know. Hey, man, your comment just went into the ether, but it says 200,000 poll watchers and everything else going on. Your comment didn't show up. Hey, yours is. Michael Kim says 60 Minutes license will be revoked, soon to be out of business. They're going to have to fight for their lives at this point for what they're doing. I'm in Pennsylvania. Governor Shapiro is a joke. Yeah, I'm proud garbage. Absolutely. I'm here in Arizona. Hello, Allison from Arizona. Looks like this man is up on stage. Is he telling jokes? No, he doesn't look to be singing. Let me see.
Come on. The dentist then said, can you do the other side? No one had ever granted me permission to explore the possibilities. But he was right. I could totally do it. Ha Yeah. Not cool. Do you think I hid that under a bushel? No, I set it on a hill to be seen, you know. I went to school, I was like, hey, ladies, They're like, ah, and I'm like, ah, you know, it was awkward. But don't hide your gift. Went to school and I shared that with others. I found out I could do the wave like the ocean. Oh, yeah. Isn't that cool? Do my eyebrows at the same time. Yeah. Teacher's like, Jason, what's 2 + 2? I'm like, I don't know, but I can do this. She's like, that's incredible. Next thing I know, I could do the bottom lip too. It took a little while, but oh yeah. I know that you are trying this with me. Some of you can do that. And I can do the other side. That was some. Usually you can do just one, but not this side, or you can't talk at the same time. You can imagine how fun this has been my whole life. You think I hide it? No way. You see, because I'm a guy from Utah, and it's fun to come here to beautiful Arizona, and I'll tell you what, whenever I'm here, I love the elevators open and people aren't expecting, because they don't know me, but this is my promise to bring joy to everybody, whether they are ready for it or not. The doors open, I'm like, hey, you going up? I'm from Utah. Want a pamphlet? They're like, let's get off the next floor. I hope you'll share that which makes you unique. It is your signature move, but it's your promise to share.
So somebody just posted, what are we watching? It's a warm-up comedian that they put out here to basically get everybody ready for the show tonight. And he sang better than he's telling jokes. He's not really a good joke teller, but he's out here early. He's trying to earn a living. I thought I'd give the guy some props. Maybe some people could watch him and go, oh yeah, he's not bad. Maybe tune into one of his shows or something. But that wasn't funny. Not funny at all. So it's better talking to you guys. That's an older version of Ryan Seacrest. Yeah, exactly. He did look like Ryan Seacrest, didn't he? Let's see. Building my new container home out of a dumpster. Yeah, people were laughing. You know, we caught the end of the joke. I mean, he's not bad. Let's listen again.
How to respond when I do this. But sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes a waiter will walk up and say, hey, what'll it be? And I'll say, hell, have some salad, and he leaves. Or I can keep the promise and make his day. He walks up, hey, what'll it be? I'm like, hey, do you have any lettuce? I just need a carrot. Do you have a carrot? He's like, let's get up. You're getting a free meal, bro. I'm grateful for the many talents, the things that make everybody unique. When my kids were little, they came to my show once and they said, Daddy, why don't you do any music we know? I said, well, what kind of music do you like? My daughter, when she was 9, she said, Lady Gaga. I said, Lady Gaga, what can I do with that? She said, make a kid's song out of it. And so this is for the children. This is a Lady Gaga version of a song that I'm going to ruin right now for you.
Yeah, we're not going to listen to that. So somebody just posted, CNN reported Kamala is pulling up on Trump now. Let me address that for you. Who cares? I just got to, that's the only thing I can say. And then the second thing I'd want to say, or second question for you is, what do you expect them to say? There is no way that CNN is going to say that, oh yeah, Trump's way ahead and Kamala doesn't have a shot. No. Every single one of these networks, I haven't turned on the networks tonight, but I guarantee you if you turned on Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, they're all going to tell you exactly the same. And that would be, this race is neck and neck. It's anybody's ball game. They're basically deadlocked. Am I wrong? They have to say that. Do you know why they have to say that? Have you ever watched a baseball game that was like 12-0? Have you ever seen a football game when it's 60-5 or something? What do? We're going to cut away from this game and go watch this game over here because it's competitive. You see, if they told you that Trump was up by 10, or if they told you Kamala was up by 10, most people would be like, well, then I don't need to watch, do I? No one's going to watch a horse race when they're like, the other horses are actually going to be running backwards while this one's running forwards. Because nobody would watch it. The horse running forward is going to just blow these other people out. When you turn on the Olympics, you know, they all are in the blocks and they get ready to go and they go boom and they all take off. But if you knew that the person running was already going to win, you wouldn't stay up at 11 o'clock and watch the Olympics from Paris. How do you know this? Because you can tell what they put on. Most of the time, you didn't see them putting on the basketball as a primary thing because we all expected the USA to kick butt and win by like 25 or 30 points, and nobody's going to sit through. They don't want to sit through NBA games now, and they definitely don't want to see NBA games when you already know the outcome. Remember, these people are in entertainment. They're not news stations. They are entertainment first. Why do I say that? Is because they need to sell advertising. If the eyeballs aren't there, the ad dollars aren't there. And if the ad dollars aren't there, those hosts that you watch aren't getting paid. So of course they're going to tell you, oh, it's tightening up. It's getting closer. And you're going to hear the exact same thing on every single network. Why? Because they want you to tune in. They're not going to tell you the right numbers. Not even if they know. Most of them don't know the real numbers. They're going to talk to, or here's a good one for you. In this latest CNN poll, well, you guys are talking heads. Who the hell's doing these polls? Oh, in the latest Fox poll, what did Brett Baer call people? Who the hell is making these polls? You have to breathe. Either way, at this point, one of these two campaigns is going to win or lose. There is nothing that is going to happen between now and Tuesday that's going to change anything. Trump's out there doing events, talking to people. Maybe there's a small amount of undecided people, but there's not enough people out there that are going to basically cause a seismic shift in the vote. Maybe if he's focusing on Virginia. Maybe if he's focusing in on, I don't know, Minnesota, he might be able to do something. Maybe if she's focusing in on whatever she wants to focus in on. But there's not much that's going to happen. They have their internal polls, and the networks have whatever they want to say. They are not going to be truthful. They can't. If you already, put it this way, if you knew Trump was going to win by 10 or 12 points, would you turn in Tuesday night and watch Brett Baer and Martha McCallum? Probably not. Or conversely, would you tune in and watch Rachel Maddow and those guys basically have a party? Nope. You say, I'll be watching, and I'm going to show you some of these other networks on Tuesday because I want to see the pity party. You know, like I've always said, winning takes care of itself. But I don't want to watch Fox or some people celebrating. I want to tune into the tears. I want to see them all break down. I want oh my God, I got to leave the country. Oh yeah, let me get some popcorn for that. That's what I want to see. That's what I expect to be watching on Tuesday night. I expect to be watching a complete liberal meltdown. I expect them to be interviewing people in the audience and be, oh, they're all gonna die. That's what I want to see. That's what I expect to see. That's what I want to show you guys so we can all laugh at them. I'm sorry. That's what it is to me. Yeah, Tuesday is going to be great. They're going to try everything they can, but polls are complicated. They pick and choose how they are presented. I mean, I've showed you guys many, many times. Yeah. Did you see the Benny show where he covered that ABC lacked the results of the PA election? Now, I got to tell you guys, come on, man. They didn't leak anything. They were working on their lower third, like you know I have my lower third. They wanted to make sure it was working, and somebody pushed it live while they were practicing. And yes, they practiced by showing Kamala up. But that's all it was. There's no... Sometimes you just have to go, somebody screwed up. Sometimes it does happen. Somebody just screwed up. That's it. I can say this because I broadcast many football games. And there are often times I would screw up the scoreboard. I would screw up how much time was left in the game, and a little graphic would come out there, and people were like, no, there's more time than that. Oh yeah, and I have to fix it real quick. It happens. You have to practice. You have to get it down. They wanted to see how far, the thing would show. But that's what it is. Excuse me. A little sneezy there. Court TV, public, purple heads will explode. Yeah, they will. They will absolutely explode when he wins. I mean, if you want me in the interim to show you some of the polling stuff while we're waiting for whoever's going to come on stage, because this guy's awful. I mean, I guess he must be cheap because he's not that funny. He's been on a while. I mean, we've been on 25 minutes, and he was on before we went on, and he's still talking and making jokes. So I guess people are piling into the arena, and they could have had an opening act. Maybe had a guy with a guitar or something. But anyway, politics is not sports. I didn't say politics was sports. What I said was cryons, lower third, production. Doesn't matter whether you're covering Little League or a presidential election. It has nothing to do with the topic. It has to do with the production. And people who enter the data into the production are human and they mess up. That's all it was. I mean, to look into it further, man, some people, you guys can chase a rabbit hole sometimes. It didn't happen. In my day, if you lied, you got soap in your mouth. We wouldn't be able to have a, we wouldn't be able to have any soap left if the Democrats Party had to wash out their mouth every time they lied. Come look who is saying CNN, really, people don't believe a word of that. I mean, okay, here, we can have some fun here. Maybe not be fun, but it's late. Waiting for all this event to happen, and I'll just show you guys. So this is the poly market that everybody was freaking out about earlier. Let's refresh. 63.4, still almost 30 points. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. It's just one indicator. If you guys want to see some polling data, let me pull that up, because that that is some crazy stuff there. Let's peek in on this, since so many people like to look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. All right. As many times as I've told you, I will tell you and show you, not tell you. I will show you again, and at the same time, I will. Oh, wait a minute. Who's this? Hold on. Holdy do. Somebody walked on stage. Oh, this is Nicole Shanahan. Hold on.
Hello, Phoenix. Hello, dear, wonderful, wonderful people of this great state of Arizona. I come to you today as a former Democrat from California.
If you don't know who Nicole Shanahan is, she was Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vice president candidate.
Apology. I am sorry what this party has done to the good people of this country. I come to you with an apology for the despicable behavior of name-calling. Nobody in this room or in this country is deplorable. Nobody is garbage in this room. Wrong for a president of the United States to divide this country as he has. And we are the brave people in this room that will unite it again. I love you and I love this country. When I was asked by Bobby Kennedy to run with him as his vice president, I told a friend and he said to me, Nicole, he was a former Democrat. He said to me, Nicole, I think the government needs something that politics can't give it right now. He said, I think it actually needs an exorcism. laughed. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. He was dead serious. Dead serious. And I've learned over the last 8 months that what is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. And we are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil. We are being called to not be puppets of corporate interests. We are being called to be individual sovereigns here in the goodness and the grace of God. You know, I've seen the belly of the beast. I've met all of those celebrities we see doing those endorsements. I've been at some of these parties where people fall on the ground because of a drug overdose and nobody cares about them. I've knelt on the ground next to these individuals and picked them up and looked in their eyes and wondered what the hell they were doing with their lives. There are good people in this country, and they're everywhere, and they're more populous than this tiny segment of the population that has been responsible for so much of our pain. And it stops now. Yes. It stops when we start asking questions out loud because we are fearless, and when mothers realize we can't just keep whispering to each other anymore. We mothers cannot stay in our homes calling one another with our desperate concerns because it's gotten too desperate. We have to come out on this stage now. And I will share with you that coming out on this stage has cost me dearly. They have ripped my reputation apart. They have threatened things that I didn't know people could take away from someone in this country. They will even threaten taking your children away for rising up against Big Pharma. Boo! No more! Your instinct and your intuition about what is going on in this country is absolutely spot on. You are some of the brightest people, and you caught on to this, and you were brave enough, more so than I was, and many of the people I know who are still remaining silent today. You guys come out, and you show up because you're freaking brave. This country will heal. And it is healing now. We're all afraid of the degree of cheating that is happening right in front of our eyes. The parading of Jill Biden in a panda suit yesterday, right in front of our eyes. What the hell is this mockery? No more. No more. No more. No more. I have my California state ballot here. This is my actual ballot. Millions of Americans have shed blood for this piece of paper. And it cannot be taken
Don't worry, it's coming right back. Sometimes it will do that. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. I will get it right back, and she will be talking to you again. Okay.
Day of President Trump's near assassination, he received a call from him, and in earnest, talked man to man, individual sovereign to individual sovereign, and they connected about their mutual love of this country.
Sometimes it drops, no big deal.
Men in this country know how to put their egos aside. Yeah. And they know that we have to make America healthy again. So, despite the novelty of seeing my name on here next to a bubble, I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight. USA. Yes. I really mean it when I say that I am apologizing for all of the people on the left who don't understand their bad behavior. I am so sorry. We will unite this country under an umbrella of love and mutual understanding, of dignity and grace. Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna just close. I don't have anything better to say, but go out there and vote for this wonderful man, Donald J. Trump. Because he is someone who knows what it is to give it all up for this country. So, thank you. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Charlie Kirk now to the stage.
So once the music stops, I will go ahead and obviously we're going to take Charlie here. Just want to let you guys know, you may want to take a little bit of a red pill and find out what the panda really means. We can talk about that later as well, but it wasn't an homage to China.
We ready to win Arizona this Tuesday? Oh, it's been a long time coming for all of us in this room. We remember what's happened these last couple election cycles. We have seen this movement sweep the country, and I got to tell you guys, this is a very, very special evening. Do you know the first ever MAGA rally was held in Phoenix, Arizona? And tonight is, as a candidate, Donald Trump's last visit as a candidate to Arizona, completing that 9-year journey. And let's remember, why did Donald Trump choose Arizona as the first ever MAGA rally? It's because Donald Trump's values have not changed over the last 40 years. From the golden escalator to this stage tonight, Donald Trump was clear that our country will be invaded no longer, and we will not put up with our sovereignty being jeopardized. That's why he came to Arizona. This state helped launch the movement that has swept the globe. This state has been, let's just say, not exactly, what's the best word I could say, accurately reflected in elections. Thank you, sir. Is that a nice way to put it? Too nice. Well, talk to me on Wednesday. I'll be a little more candid. Everybody, this is a monumental time that we're living through right now. And the stakes of this election, you all know them, and that's why you are here. You're going to hear tonight, and how awesome was that from Nicole, by the way? Was that just amazing? There's something profound happening in this country where Kamala Harris gets Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, and we get Bobby Kennedy, Elon Musk, and Tulsi Gabbard. They say that Trump is good at making deals. That is the best political trade in the history of political trades, everybody. The realignment is it does not matter if you are a Republican or Democrat. It does not matter the label that you used to call yourself. It simply matters, do you love the country, and do you want to do whatever it takes to save the country from these robber barons, from these ideological zealots, and these partisans that have been stealing our money, going after our children, and sending us into no-win wars halfway across the globe. What this election is about is where you have a Kennedy endorsing Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, the former co-chair of the DNC, endorsing Donald Trump. We are the party of free speech, of borders. We are the party of openness to ideas, and they are the party of war, censorship, and ugliness. And you saw it on display, where the current president of the United States thinks that you're a bunch of garbage. Well, look around, Mr. President, because there's a lot of garbage here tonight. And this Tuesday, we're going to take out the garbage of the White House, and we're going to be back in charge of this country. And everybody, your work is paying off. But tonight is not your contribution for the election. The Democrats are not just going to roll over and hand us back this beloved state. This is our home. And our home, these last couple election cycles, I have a pit in my stomach still from 2020. Are you with me? I feel sick from what has happened in 2022. And you guys have stepped up, but we're not there yet. You see, in 2020, we were down a couple points at this time in early voting. As of today, we are beating the Democrats by 8 points in early voting. 8 points. And we have a lot of work yet to do. This weekend must be a weekend where you go completely nuts, where you go knock on every neighbor's door, where you download the Turning Point Action app and you canvass your neighborhood. You find every low propensity voter imaginable. I'm curious, how many of you already voted? Raise your hand if you voted. That's a lot of hands. And if you have already voted, you need to go find 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 other people. Your job and your duty and your task is not done. This state is going to determine the future of the United States of America. And you look at the issues set in front of us. Arizona has been a victim of every failed policy by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Open borders, record inflation. When Donald Trump was president, you could buy a home in Phoenix, Arizona if you earned $75,000 a year. Now, it requires $135,000 a year to purchase a home just in Phoenix, Arizona. Not to mention the millions of people coming across the southern border. And you look at what Donald Trump will do. You know, Kamala Harris, they asked the question, what are you going to do for the economy? She says, well, you know, I was raised in a middle-class family. Okay, we got that. And by the way, just so we're setting the record straight, Donald Trump has worked longer at McDonald's than Kamala Harris ever has. Just for the record. On day one, Donald Trump, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, drill baby drill, secure the border, end World War III, and no men in women's sports. And that's just day one, everybody. That's just day one. They are not just going to hand over the country to you because we have big crowds and we're doing well in early voting. These next couple of days, I do not want to see a spirit of cockiness or confidence. I want you to re-watch the photos on your iPhone and go back and watch what happened when they called Arizona 90 minutes after polls closed. Do you remember that? I want you to recreate the anger that you felt. I want you to recreate that pit of the stomach for those of you that lived here your whole life and you thought this state would never, ever, ever send its votes to a Democrat as president. And no, I'm right there with you. And so the essence is this, though, is that we can all do more to make sure that will never happen again. And in the coming days, that will be determined. Here is the fact. There are hundreds of thousands of Trump supporters right now in the Valley that have received mail-in ballots that have not yet submitted them. We need to find those people and get them in the system. There are hundreds of thousands of Trump supporters that may or may not show up. These are plumbers, electricians, and welders. These are people that we love and that we cherish. You might say, oh, my vote won't matter. You need to convince them to go to the polls and get their vote in and bring two friends with them. You see, what they're doing, the Democrats are counting on, is the only way that they're able to maintain with power is if we stay at home and we do not turn out in record numbers. And this is a realignment that we are living through in real time. As you know, I'm seeing it firsthand. We just completed today our 25th campus stop in support of Donald Trump. 25. And I go to college campuses, so you don't have to, but I'll tell you, there is something happening on these campuses. We can't find rooms big enough to fit all the students that want to attend our campus events. And I am happy to report that young men are the most conservative that they have been in 50 years, everybody, in 50 years. The table is set. We outnumber them. We have more support, but do we have more votes? The question is, we have to turn our support into votes, and that is where the grittiness comes in. Where this weekend, instead of just sitting around watching football, come to one of our Super Chase events that we have coming all across the Valley. Go knock on 5 doors. Go make yourself an active participant. Say, oh, Charlie, what does that mean? Let me just demonstrate. Very easy. Step 1, wear the MAGA hat. Step 2, go into a Denny's and people compliment it and say, have you voted? Have you voted? Have you voted? Have you voted? Everybody, we need to flood the zone with public support of Donald Trump in this state and get every last voter out to the polls. Every last one. And I will close with this. I was raised in Chicago, but this is my home. And I love this state. This is the best place in America, and I could live anywhere I want. I live here for a reason. No one asks where you went to college. I wouldn't be able to tell them because I didn't go to college. No one here cares who your parents are. Arizona is what America should be. It's how do you act, what is your character, and what do you do? This is the best the country has to offer, this state. State 48 is a state that loves liberty. It's a state that loves freedom. It's a state that cherishes the founding ideals of this nation. I moved here for a reason, and I believe we are all here for God's purpose, to liberate this state from Democrat control, and we'll all see it on CNN on election night if we do the work. We can now project the 11 electoral votes of Arizona to Donald J. Trump. Get to work, everybody. Let's win this thing. Give it up for Senator Mike Lee, everybody.
So as Mike Lee comes, I'm just cutting the music till he gets up to the podium here and he begins talking.
Hello, Arizona! Hey, how about Charlie Kirk? Is he a hero or what? And by the way, happy Halloween to everyone. I'm so glad that you came to join me and Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson and Donald J. Trump instead of greeting trick-or-treaters. Look, if you're like me and most of the people throughout this great country, You like treats, but you're sick and tired of the tricks. No more tricks from Washington. And you know, speaking of trick-or-treating, I wonder what Kamala's doing tonight. Is she at the Naval Observatory in Washington greeting the trick-or-treaters? If so, what on earth is she giving them? I imagine her handing out these like vegan candies or Brussels sprouts. Maybe Jell-O shots or vaccines, I don't know. But it's not right, it's not right. Look, Arizona, you are right at the epicenter. You are the epicenter of America's fate. You hear this all the time. Every 2 years, then every 4 years, you hear the most important election of your lifetime. But you know what? This one really is. It actually is. Because the heart and soul of America, our future, our existence, our freedom, our ability to do what we do best, work hard and provide for our families, is under attack. And I'm so glad that I get to be with you tonight, because you're going to decide our fate. So I thank you. I thank you in advance for what you're going to do for us on Tuesday, and what we'll learn about Tuesday night when they announce Donald J. Trump and Kari Lake have been elected. And they go together, don't they? Donald Trump and Kari Lake. We need them both of them. Because in order to bring about Donald J. Trump's policies, we've got to move things through the Senate. Now, this is an institution where the median age is 168. Kari Lake is a uniquely good senator in embryo, and on Tuesday, you're going to make it happen, aren't you? But look, let's talk about some of what's at stake. Okay, there are a lot of issues on the ballot, but I want to talk about 3 in particular in the few minutes that we've got. Number 1, religious freedom is at stake. Religious freedom is on the ballot. And if you don't believe me, let's just look at a couple of things that will tell us why it's on the ballot. You know, President Trump's opponent, whose name rhymes with Kamala Harris, she was once a senator. She was a senator for 4 years. I worked with her during that time. One of the centerpieces of her legislative agenda was a bill that, like so many Democratic bills, was ironically named, had the Orwellian name of the Do No Harm Act. Now, when a Democrat names a bill like that, what do you expect? Is that going to be good? The Do No Harm Act does the exact opposite of do no harm. The Do No Harm Act would completely gut the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is an important protection for your First Amendment rights to the free exercise of religion. Are we okay with that in Arizona? No, heavens no. And you know, I can say that with some authority because I was born here, and my ancestors helped found, they were some of the first Mormon pioneers in Arizona and in Utah. You know, my people came here for one reason. They just wanted to live and be free. They were seeking freedom because, you know, we're heretics and we were getting shot at in Missouri and Ohio and then Illinois. So we ended up in the Rocky Mountains and settled Utah and Arizona. This is a place where, regardless of what your ancestral background is, regardless of what your faith might be, this is a place where people understand the need for faith, that faith and freedom are inextricably intertwined. And this administration, the Donald J. Trump administration, will restore those protections that Kamala Harris wants to burn to the ground. And we're not going to let that happen. I've thought a lot about why it is that she's trying to undermine religious freedom so much. And then it occurs to me, let's see, she was raised by a Marxist, an actual Marxist professor. What do we know about Marxists? Marxists don't like God. They don't like God because they want government to be their deity. And yet, just like the idolaters of old, it never ends well for those who depart from that, for those who indulge in that kind of idolatry. So we're not going to accept that. But more importantly, we know that the greatest strength behind our freedom is our religious freedom and our faith. Because when we have faith, we understand that government's there to do a narrow, unique job. It's not there to be our God. And so let's remind the people in Washington, D.C. of that. By the way, Ruben Gallego is right there, thick as thieves with Kamala Harris on religious freedom and everything else. We cannot let Arizona elect Ruben. All right, what else is on the ballot? Parental rights, parental discretion, your ability to direct your own family, your ability to raise your own children without undue interference from federal policy. Federal policy that would make them, I don't know, compete against boys if they're girls in sports teams, share a locker room with boys or a restroom with boys, and subject them to filth in their libraries. You know, the left is always accusing us of trying to ban books. We're not book burners. We just don't want filth in our classrooms, not in our curriculum, not in our libraries. You're the parent. You're in charge. Your constitutional rights stand there to connect you to your child. The government will never replace you as a parent, and Donald Trump and Kari Lake will make darn sure of it. What else is on the ballot? Well, the economy is on the ballot. Economic strength is on the ballot. The strength of your own accounts, your own wallet is on the ballot. You know, a few years ago, some researchers conducted a study to figure out what it is that makes the difference. What amount of money it is that makes the difference between people feeling like they're prospering and getting by just fine and like they're about to sink, between success and the feeling of failure. Do you know what it often is? It often comes down to about $300 a month. That's not very much. And yet, people in Arizona, just like people in Utah and people pretty much everywhere in America, the average family has to shell out an additional $1,100 or $1,200 every single month just for your basic living expenses because of Kamala Harris's reckless spending in Washington. And it's a true fact. These are the same people who said, yeah, we're going to control inflation, and they controlled it with the Inflation Reduction Act, which is a lot like the Do No Harm Act. It did the opposite of what it said it would do. It's like fighting a house on fire by throwing gasoline on it. Donald Trump and Kari Lake have the antidote to that. They're not going to promise that the federal government can do this directly. What they're going to say is, we're going to get the federal government out of your way. Kamala Harris wants to raise your tax rates. Are you okay with that? Kamala Harris wants to tax you, literally, on money that you have not yet earned. Are you okay with that? Donald Trump and Kari Lake want you to be able to keep what you earn. That's what you deserve because you've worked hard. Look, at the end of the day, we're not the party that calls people in the other party garbage. We just call their policies garbage because that's what they are. We've been told for far too long to settle for something less than a government that honors and complies with that document, some 2.5 centuries old, written by wise men raised up by God to that very purpose, the United States Constitution. We've been told to settle for a government that doesn't respect it, that doesn't think it imposes limitations, and that it shouldn't. Well, do you know what? The sole purpose of the Constitution, of any Constitution, is to restrain the government, to make sure that you can do what you do best, work hard, provide for your families, and live your lives as you deem fit. That's what Donald Trump and Kari Lake both offer you. It's not a new deal. In fact, it's a very old deal, but it is a fair one. It's a deal that understands that you are the sovereign. The government works for you, not the other way around. Kamala Harris broke it, Donald Trump can fix it, and it all starts with Arizona. Let's make it happen on Tuesday. So don't settle. Don't settle for a government that recognizes no boundaries. Expect limited government. Don't settle for multi-trillion-dollar deficits. Expect a government that understands that it's your money and they're messing with your money when they spend too much. It's time, my fellow Americans, to expect more. It's time to expect freedom, and it's time to elect Donald Trump and Kari Lake.
I think he did that entire talk. I think that entire talk was without a teleprompter. I really think he did all of that just by memory and passion. Didn't even use a teleprompter. Unbelievable. So Tucker's getting ready to come up, which is, I'm sure he's going to light a fire on this crowd if it hasn't been a fire already. I just had to cut just to make sure they're not playing any music before he gets up there to his podium and speaks. Let's see if it's got music on it. I'm not really sure.
Which is the bedrock of a functioning democracy.
Yes. Well, the one thing you can't censor is a live event.
Yeah, he's playing music. All right, so as soon as he gets done playing music and gets up there, it's funny he said that. The one thing you can't censor is a live event. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they absolutely can. So looks like I'm going to be up until like 2 o'clock in the morning, because by the time this thing is done and then it processes and then I have to wait and then I can just edit and take certain things out. Don't blame me. That's just someone else's house, somebody else's rules. Just got to play by it. And it's not worth risking everything. You heard it. If you want to see a replay, it's on. It's going to be on my X channel, on my profile. You can see it there. You can scrub until you get to it. But he brought so much fire. Now you understand why they are terrified of that man. They are absolutely terrified of these people being brought together. Elon, who guarantees free speech. Tucker, I don't even know what his role is going to be. RFK Jr., who's ready to just blow the doors off this stuff. That's why they can't have this man become president and bring the people on. Ladies and gentlemen, Tucker Carlson.
This is so cool. Thank you. I was just standing backstage with my wife, who never comes to events like this. She's not very political, but she has very strong political feelings, so strong that she doesn't like to hear about politics because it winds her up. And she says, 2 seconds ago, she goes, and she's a very sweet person, former religion teacher, and she goes, I want to introduce you. And she has that kind of crazed look in her eye, and I said, I don't know if that's a good idea. Why do you want to introduce me? And she said, because I want to lead the crowd in a chant, we are not garbage. And I thought, that's it right there. The abuse that the best people in the country have taken for the past 8 years is too much. You're garbage? Really? Listen to who's saying that. Anyway, I'm really grateful to be here. I never thought that I would be speaking at a rally for Donald Trump. This is the 4th time I've done it. And it has felt not only like an honor and a privilege every time, but it has felt really natural. I'm sort of surprised. I was in journalism for 33 years, hanging around I know, someone just said, woo! It's nothing to brag about, trust me. I honestly feel like saying I was young and I needed the money. You know, it's almost like when the naughty pictures of you emerged, and you're like, that was the old me. But I spent my whole life standing at the back, watching, and I always thought, politicians, they're disgusting. By the way, I still think that. I would never get on stage and endorse one. You'd have to be totally bereft of a soul to do something like that. And here I am with a full-throated, utterly sincere endorsement of Donald Trump. How did that happen? And I was thinking about that this morning in the shower, where I do my best thinking. I like thinking in the shower because there's no lying to yourself in the shower. Because when you walk out of the shower and you see this kind of furry, lumpy primate in the mirror, there's no imagining you're God. No, it's very grounding to see yourself naked at least once a day. I always think, I gotta hang a black sheet over that mirror, but I keep it just to keep me on the ground and with perspective. Anyway, I was thinking about this morning, and I was thinking, I've known Donald Trump, a long time, just from working in television. And what people forget about Donald Trump, who is often described as a real estate developer, a casino owner, both of which are true, but that for a huge chunk of his life, 10 years anyway, he had the #1 show on television. He had mastered the business that I was in. And on the one hand, television is kind of a repulsive business. It's like a P. Diddy party every night. Ew, yeah, tell me about it. I spent 30 years doing it. But on the other hand, the people who are really, really successful, and Trump was #1 in television, all have one thing in common, which is they understand people. And the good ones like people. And they're liked back. And by the way, you probably know this, but in the TV business, which has spent the last 8 years telling you Trump is a terrifying dictator, he was loved. I mean, everyone loved him. And I liked him. I mean, I liked him from the first time I talked to him 20 years ago. He was hilarious and interesting and smart and, again, incredibly funny. And it was almost 10 years ago. It was the winter of 2015. I was in the car. I'd actually interviewed Trump that morning. I was working on a TV network that shall not be named. And Trump was the guest. And he was, of course, this famous star on another network, NBC. And he did great, like he always did. We had a great time. And about 3 hours later, I was in the car going somewhere, and he called me. And he said, I just want you to know that I'm thinking of running for president. And I just did not take it seriously at all. And I said, oh, yeah, I'm running for president, okay. Because everyone in TV thinks I should be president. Joe Scarborough wakes up every morning, I should be president. But he's not really gonna run because you don't want to give up the salary, and it's hard to run for president. It's just a way to sell a book or whatever. So I kind of laughed. And he said, no, I'm gonna surprise you. And it was such a weird conversation that I actually wrote it down in my calendar. I looked it up today. I wrote it down. Donald Trump calls, says he's gonna run for president, because there was something in his voice that didn't sound like the Trump I thought I knew. There was a resolve there that I thought was amazing. And of course, the rest is history. Almost 10 years later, he has completely transformed the country and the world and the political party under whose banner he ran, the Republican Party. And for me, it was this incredible journey of watching this guy, covering him, knowing him, to where I am now, which is speaking on a stage without any shame at all, not getting paid for it, doing it because I really, really mean it, and endorsing him for president. And so I just want to explain how I got here, because I think it says a lot about who Trump is. So the first thing I noticed about Trump was that everybody in the Republican Party I had suspicions about hated him immediately. There was something about Donald Trump that whenever he spoke, that the people I'd always thought were kind of false, the Jonah Goldbergs of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world, but these were leading figures in the Republican Party, my neighbors in Washington, D.C., who are Republicans. Here Trump comes out of nowhere. He seems to be gaining traction. People who'd never voted Republican, who never voted at all, seem to like Trump. This seemed like great news if you're trying to expand your political party. And yet the Republicans in Washington were so offended by Trump that they couldn't even talk about him. I remember being at a Christmas party in 2015 with my aforementioned sweet wife at our neighbor's house. All kinds of people sitting around, and someone mentioned Trump, and my wife, who's not political at all, says, I like Trump. I remember one of my neighbors goes, oh yeah, I like Trump. Oh, that's hilarious. And my wife goes, no, I do like Trump. Why, is that bad? And people, it was like the devil getting splashed with holy water. They just moved back slowly, staring at her like, is this person dangerous? That was such a shocking thing to say in Northwest DC in 2015. And I began to ask myself, why is Donald Trump so threatening? Is it because he's got some crazed extremist program? No. Everything he said was kind of moderate and sensible. Like, I don't know, we should have a border. And if we're going to have NATO, maybe the countries in NATO should help pay for it. If we're going to defend Europe, maybe they could, pony up a little bit. Why are we paying the entire bill? That didn't seem crazy to me. Boy, they treated Trump like he was a dangerous freak, like he just escaped from the state mental institution. Shackles on his arm and a butcher knife in his hand. Stop this man! And I just remember watching this. I wasn't emotional about it at first, but I remember thinking, my neighbors all seem so reasonable and sensible, even the Democrats. All kind of normal people. I lived on their street. why are they so mad about a guy who says stuff like we should have a border? And then I realized that they hated Trump because Trump asked questions they couldn't answer. Like, why are we doing it this way? And I remember thinking and saying, well, I don't know, why don't you just answer his question? If not having a border is such a good idea, if it's so important to have a tight labor market, or if you think tariffs are so terrible, why don't you just explain why? Why are you yelling at the guy? No matter what he said, he would get up and say, I think we should have tariffs. And they would say, racist! And I would think to myself, what do tariffs have to do with race? I was completely confused. And then over time, within about a year, I realized people hated Trump because they were guilty of crimes. And those people were my neighbors and coworkers. My mind exploded. I mean, ultimately, I had to leave the city where I spent my entire life. Because thanks to Donald Trump, I saw what it really was, which was a scam. It was the richest city in the United States. Its suburbs, 8 out of 10 of the richest suburbs were suburbs of Washington, D.C., and we didn't make anything. There was no business there. There was no production of anything. By the way, there was also no creativity or open-mindedness. How did these people get so rich? Well, by stealing. That's how. That had never occurred to me till Trump came. And yet everybody involved in the grift knew instantly the jig was up. If this guy keeps talking, we're in deep trouble. And I'm not even sure, and he's coming on stage in a minute, and maybe we can ask him. I'm not even sure that when he got to Washington, Donald Trump understood how corrupt the city was. I'm not sure he even knew. He sensed there was a problem. Neither he nor me nor any normal person had any idea that even before he got to the city, the CIA and the FBI would be working to destroy him. That's the threat that he posed to them. And what was that threat? Just being honest in a simple way about what he saw, telling the truth. They saw the truth as a mortal threat, and they see the truth as a mortal threat now. I really think, I mean, look, let's be completely honest. Donald Trump is the choice of American voters for president. That's not wish fulfillment. I'm not saying that because I want it to be true, though I do. I'm saying that because it's completely obvious. There is no Democrat running for anything who could fill a hall like this, who could do it 4 times a day for a year. There's not one. There's no Republican in Washington. Could Mitch McConnell fill this hall? I don't think so. Yeah, every boo is deserved if you only knew how deserved those boos were. One of the things that we learned from Donald Trump, one of the many, many things, completely changed my life watching it. One of the many things we learned is that the Republican Party, the leaders of the Republican Party, really despised their own voters. They had zero interest in improving their lives. And we know this because as 100,000 a year died of drug overdose, as their towns died from offshoring of industry, as their towns were invaded from people from foreign countries who were here illegally, they did nothing. Their attention was focused abroad to the Middle East and Eastern Europe. That's where all the money went. That's where all the prayers went. That's where all the attention went, because that's all they cared about. They didn't care at all about their own voters. And by the way, I didn't really know that. I think most people in this room sense that. You know when someone doesn't care about you, you can feel it. You can feel the contempt coming off them in oily waves. That's exactly what that is. It's contempt. Joe Biden's not the only one who thinks you're garbage, actually. Mitch McConnell agrees with that. That's a fact. And that's one of the reasons that they don't want Donald Trump back in Washington. But the main reason they don't want Donald Trump back in Washington is something called disclosure. Do you know what disclosure is? Disclosure means sunlight. Disclosure is the principle that you, as an American citizen, an equity owner of this country, not a renter, not a serf, not a slave, but as a citizen, an owner of this country, a person on whose behalf the government exists, There's no other reason to have the government except to serve you. That you have a right to know what that government is doing with your money in your name. And they're terrified if Donald Trump gets back, accompanied by a full cast of reformers, not alone this time. Not a single man riding into Washington, man against the machine. It's hard to do that. He did it. He fought off 2 impeachment attempts for daring to do it. But if he comes back with, I don't know, Bobby Kennedy and Elon Musk, when he comes back with an army of people who know exactly what's up, they know what's going on, they know where the bodies are likely to be buried, and they're coming with shovels to dig them up. What you're seeing now is actual panic and desperation. And I guess I've kind of backhandedly defended Hunter Biden on the grounds that he was so out of it he had no idea what was actually going on. I'll extend the same courtesy to Kamala Harris. And that creepy guy who's following around on the campaign trail. By the way, AOC just said the other day, speaking of which, AOC, that would be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I love that. She's this revolutionary who's named after a conquistador and doesn't even know it. Your last name is Cortez, honey. Sit this one out. Excuse me. And people would be like, Larry Mussolini shows up and is like, no, I'm against fascism, really. All right, got it. What a moron. But she was at a rally in Vegas yesterday and she goes, Doug Emhoff is the model of masculinity. Oh, man. Yeah. Memo to any unmarried women here, do not date a feminist man. They'll smack you around, trust me. It's the weak ones you have to be afraid of, but it's the strong ones they're afraid of. Because they know that what they've done and have been doing for decades could be exposed. And this is existential for them. So I would just say, without putting too fine a point on it, but every person in this room senses what I'm talking about, do not underestimate what they are capable of. To them, this is not an election, it's much bigger than that. These are people who think they have a moral right to rule, and that you were born in the serf class and there you will stay. They believe that. These same people lecturing us about democracy, they think it is their right to be in charge, as if anyone in a democracy has a right to be in charge. People serve at the pleasure of the population for the benefit of the population. It's literally that simple. But they don't believe that. Donald Trump has stood in the face of that group, which includes every power center, not simply in the United States, but in the world, almost since the day he called me in the car in the winter of 2015 and said he was dead serious about running. And he has faced them off, and he has endured more punishment, graver trials than any politician in the history of this country. And he didn't need to. He didn't need to. At any point, he could have said, you know what? I've got a lot of grandchildren, some of whom I enjoy playing golf with. I'm pretty rich, actually. You may have heard that. And I don't need this. And he has bulled forward with energy and cheerfulness from beginning to end. And I would submit, since AOC raised the question of what a real man looks like, let me just tell you my view of what a real man looks like. A real man is a cheerful man. And he's cheerful because he's brave. Brave people have hope because they have a mission and they're strong inside. And they know, because they are living for something greater than themselves, that even if they die, they don't die. The mission lives on. And that's what gives them heart and cheerfulness. They are not morose. They are not self-pitying. They are bright, bright-eyed, cheerful, energetic, and in command. And that is exactly exactly what Trump has proven to be, including on the day he was shot in the face. And I know because I talked to him that night. And he made a joke about it. And I sometimes think, I'm a pretty tough guy. I've been fired by all these cable networks. It's really hard to be fired by a cable network. I've really been through it. Thank me for my service later. It's absurd. All of us are the heroes of our own drama, of course, no matter what it is. You teach middle school social studies, I'm sure you come home and think, man, I fought a battle today. You run some stupid cable TV show and you're like, I'm tough as hell. Try getting shot in the face at a rally and then pushing off the Secret Service and standing up with your fist in the air. Try that. That was the most revealing moment I have ever seen in the life, not just of any politician, but of any person I have known personally, someone I actually know. And that's the moment that little boys dream about. That's, I mean, every little boy, because men do not become men organically, they have to prove that they're men. And every little boy dreams about some war scenario. Everyone's dead but me, and I'm charging the machine gun nest because I'm the bravest man. Would you? Would you be the bravest man? Or would you be in fetal position, calling out your mom's name? I don't know, we don't know. You haven't been put in that position, I haven't either. Donald Trump just was on camera. It was so unbelievable that Democrats on MSNBC and the internet immediately accused him of faking it on the grounds that nobody could be that brave. And it's true, that's not a kind of Doug Emhoff thing to do. Kind of hard to imagine the second gentleman standing up and being like, fight, fight, fight. You know, or Tim Walz. But the truth is, masculinity is still an indispensable thing. I'm sorry. It is. Even in an age of Uber Eats and air conditioning. No one's going out to slay a mastodon with a spear, but you still need a brave man in charge. Because it's a rough world and unexpected things happen. And as my friend Mike Tyson said, famously, everybody got a plan until he gets hit in the face. So what's your plan when you get shot in the face? You don't have a plan. You act purely on instincts, and that's when we find out if you're a leader or not. And that's what we learned, and we're learning it still. We're learning it still, because even if you or me have been able to pull that off, you think that's the end? You think that's the last time they're going to try to do that to you? Are you joking? No, probably not. You think even if you manage to get the most votes, you can get elected. If you get elected, what's it going to be like to govern? It is an unending struggle every single day to represent the people you've promised to represent, the people who otherwise have no representation. None. Because trust me, outside of Donald Trump, very few people in Washington care about you. And I mean that. Because you're not Ukrainian. But he does care. And because he cares, because at this point, I don't care if you're a New York Times correspondent, and if there are any in this room, let me raise my middle finger in your face. And that is heartfelt. I mean that. That's not just some talking point I'm throwing out there to make you feel good. My hostility toward legacy media is earned. I know them. They're worse than you think. But that's not just a talking point. That is real. Someone who is willing to do that on your behalf is not only the man you need, he's the only man who can represent you. Because that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to stare down the barrel of the hate aimed at you, not just from assorted people on the internet, but from the most powerful people on the planet. And you're going to have to stand up as straight and say, onward, with a smile on your face every day. And he's the only person I have ever met in my entire 55 years on this planet who can do that. So with that, let me get my handheld mic to introduce the former and next president.
They're playing the music as Trump walks out. Damn. That's like the only thing I could say right now is damn. Some of you guys who had been feeling a little weird that, it might not be cool to call it a landslide. After what you've heard the speakers tonight, RFK Jr. and then Tucker just tell you, she can't win. At this point, all they can do is try to finagle things to get her in. This has been phenomenal. I think it's going to continue to be phenomenal. He's talking.
Honored than I've been in a long time in memory.
All right, so they're playing "God Bless the USA" right now, which I can't play. But let me see. I'll put it over there so you can see without playing the music. Okay. All right, so Tucker is bringing Trump up the stairs to the stage. Let's see him make his entrance here. Man, there he is. What a day. This man's 78 years old, and this is the third event of the day. We started off, I don't even remember where we started off. I ain't been nowhere. He's been flying all over the country. Henderson, Nevada. Where was the first one? I don't even remember. It seemed like it was yesterday at this point. And now here he is in Glendale, Arizona. Just simply phenomenal. The man's got some tiger energy somewhere in what he does, and how he does it, I just can't even begin to wonder. And we're only going to see this one time in our life. There's nobody behind him. There's no who's the next Donald Trump. It's him, and it's only him. And I think you guys all know this. I mean, it's quite obvious at this point that this man, they broke the mold. There is not somebody coming up behind him that's going to have this kind of energy, that's going to have this kind of charisma, and finally, this kind of, how do I say it, badassery. That's what I'll say. I'll just call it badassery at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, Tucker Carlson and Donald J. Trump. Let's listen in.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So, I've been thinking this for the past 8 years.
Let me know how the volume is, everybody. Let me check in the volume.
What motivates you to keep going?
Who the hell knows? I don't know. I just want to be with people like this. There's so much love in this room. So much love, right? Isn't that amazing? No, it's pretty easy. I could have I have a lot of alternatives. I could be at a beautiful beach with the waves hitting me in the face and all that boring stuff. And I've been there, and you get very bored pretty easily. I have one thing in mind. It's called Make America Great Again. That's all I think about.
Amen. But was there ever a moment, I don't want to go through the litany, but I was thinking about it today, because every person in this room has followed this so carefully. But if you make a list of all the attacks, some of which are just mind-boggling in their viciousness and unfairness, culminating with being shot, was there ever a moment where you just thought, come on, this is too much?
You like not to think about that, honestly, and there are moments when you don't feel so good about things, but you try not to do that. You try not to, I always like to look forward. I don't like to look so much in the present. I don't like to look in the past so much, other than you have to learn from the past. It's history, you have to learn, otherwise you're a very foolish person. But I like to look forward. I like to think of the positive. I think you have to have a sort of the power of positive thinking in a way. And I don't know, it's just a mission that I'm on. I felt we did great in the first election, 2016. We did much better in the second election. Bad things happened, bad things happened. And had I not done well in the second, I would have said, all right, that's it, because, you wouldn't have done well. But I knew how well we did. And now, she said, you're right about that. But, no, but if I didn't do, we got millions and millions more votes in the second election, which rarely happens to a president. Usually they get less. Almost all the time they get less. Obama got less. Barack Hussein Obama, he got a lot less. And had we not done well, but I knew how well we did, and I said, well, let's see how they do. And I waited around for a year, and I looked at these people, and Biden was grossly incompetent. I saw that. His vice president wasn't even a discussion. She came in last. She was the first one to get out of the Democrat primary. She was, I guess, number 22. I think there were 22 people, and she was the last. She was the last or first out, if you want to look at it that way. She never got to Iowa. But I was watching, and if they could do well, I would have been very happy. Actually, I would have been very satisfied. But they were grossly incompetent. And when I watched what they were doing and how they were destroying this country at the border, I mean, millions and millions of people. I'm sure we have some in here tonight with us, murderers and drug dealers, prisoners. They have prisons from all over the world are being emptied out into our country, all over the world, the Congo and Africa, not just South America. You know this. They're opening up their prisons and they're bringing them into our country. Anyway, so I watched other things too. Afghanistan, you take a look at Afghanistan, what happened with Afghanistan, how bad that was. I wanted to get out. We were getting out. We were going to keep Bagram, but we were getting out with dignity and strength. We were strong. And the way they got out, they took the soldiers out first. No, you take the soldiers out last. Anybody would know that. And you watched all of the things that happened. And I said, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it again. And we're doing well. Now we're going to know in 4 days. But we're doing very well. I think we're leading by a lot. And if we can keep that cheating down, because they're a bunch of cheats, if we can keep that cheating down, we're going to have a tremendous victory. I think it'll go down as one of the greatest victories of all time. So we're going to have an exciting time. We're going to have an exciting time.
So you were in New Mexico the other day. New Mexico's considered a pretty blue state.
Yeah.
What were you doing there?
Well, they're also a border state. They have people pouring in by the tens of thousands, and they're being decimated. They're being hurt very badly. They also have a pretty rotten economy for a lot of reasons, but what they really have is tremendous inflation. But beyond that, because I happen to think that the border is the single biggest issue. I think the border is a bigger issue than inflation. Inflation is destroying, and it's a country buster. Inflation, it's broken up many countries, including Germany from many years ago. You look at where there was big this was the biggest inflation and the worst inflation we've ever had. They say in 48 years. They don't include a lot of things. It was the worst inflation we've ever had. Inflation is a country buster. So I'm not trying to minimize that, but I think the biggest problem and the worst thing that's happened to this country is allowing millions of people in here that are criminal people. Look, when you empty out your prisons and you put them into the United States, a lot of bad things happen, and they're coming in totally unvetted, totally unchecked. They're pouring in. Venezuela has allowed thousands and thousands of the roughest prisoners in the world to come in. Their crime rate is way down. I think like 70%, 72%. They've taken from Caracas and the cities in Venezuela where they have the problem. They've taken the street gangs and they've delivered them into the United States. Thank you very much. They've taken their criminals. They've taken their drug dealers and drug lords. They've taken them out of Caracas and they brought them into the United States. And it is a disgrace. And we are going to have to do a very large deportation because you can't live like that. It cannot be sustained, Tucker. It cannot be sustained. I think you know that better than anybody.
So I do know. I think it's the gravest crime ever committed against the United States, ever, by any country. Our leaders committed against us. But it does raise the question of motive. It hasn't helped the labor market any. It hasn't helped Americans at all. I mean, you've heard a Democratic senator stood up and said the United States military should take these people. We should give them guns. New York City has given them guns in the police department. Like, you wonder, like, what is going on here?
So it's the hardest thing. You know, in business, and you like to go and where you started from, you sort of like to understand where the other side's coming from. So here you're looking at something. Why do they want men in women's sports? And, you know, I've been doing this now. I used to say, I was very proud to say I wasn't a politician, but I guess after a while you're sort of a politician.
I think you qualify, yeah.
And, you know, so, I mean, I hate to say it, but you like to know where the other side's coming from. And I'll say, why do they want to have men, and they're so emphatic about it, men playing in women's sports? You see what's happening in volleyball, what's happening in swimming, what's happening in weightlifting. How about weightlifting, where records that stood for 18 years, you know, are being broken like by hundreds of pounds? The whole thing is crazy. Then you say, why do they want to have transition? I call them transition operations by the thousands. If you just say, well, I'm thinking about it, they throw you onto an operating table, and you say, why do they want to have that? Who wants that? Who wants to have open borders, which are, they're all the same thing. They don't make any sense. You know, we're the party of common sense, right? Because I think we're really the party of common sense. And there can only be a couple of reasons. Number one, they're stupid. Well, they're not stupid, because you can't be stupid. No, but you can't be stupid and be that good at cheating on elections, okay? Because they're great at that. So they could be stupid. They could also hate our country. They could hate our country. They may hate our country. They may not even know it. You know, they may not, a lot of people don't know it, but they, and the other thing is they want to cheat on elections by signing these people up. And they are trying to sign people up. They're trying to sign people up that don't even know what country they're in, okay? So that's the other thing. So it's one of those three things. Nobody really knows. But you'd say, okay, so I've been doing this for a while. I've never had anybody, I've had people come up and say, gee, it would be great if you could get the taxes down. Gee, it would be great if you could do this. It would be hundreds of things. Nobody's ever come up to me and said, it's really important to me that we allow men to play in women's sports. Nobody. Nobody. And yet, it's such a big deal. It's such a big deal.
Wait, so you think the point may be just to destroy, just to break the country?
It could be they hate our country. I mean, they may hate our country. And we deal with real scum. I mean, like a guy like Adam Shifty Schiff. He's a sleazebag. And he's probably going to be a senator, if you can believe it. But I call him Watermelon Head. He has the... No, he's unattractive, both inside and out. That is... No, but this is a really bad guy. This is a dishonest guy. Not a dumb guy at all. He's got the smallest neck I've ever seen on a human being. He will never be a football player, I can tell you. But he's a smart guy, but he's just a sleazebag. You know, there's nothing else you can... Should I give you a little example?
I hope you will. I'm really enjoying this a lot.
This gentleman happens to like my son, Don, I think, because he likes you. Now, maybe you don't, but he likes you. I have a son, Don, who's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's a wild man. A little wild. I would say he's a little wild.
In a good way.
But in a good way. He's a very good kid. And I read about, like, all of a sudden, he's involved with Russia. I said, but I know him so well. He's my boy. I know exactly. He knows less about Russia than the cameraman that's sitting right there who's never been. Don doesn't know anything about Russia. But one day, about, 3 years before, they met, a whole group of people met with a Russian lawyer having to do with the Nowitzki Act or something, having to do with child adoption. Crazy. But she was a Russian. Now, everybody in Congress knew this woman. But anyway, they go after him. Now, think of this. Russia was a major hoax, okay? It's now been adjudged to be a total major hoax. We had the Mueller Commission. We had everybody. It was a hoax. It was made up to justify why Hillary Clinton lost the election when she wasn't supposed to lose. It was a totally... And it was made up by Schiff and Hillary and some other just total sleazeballs. And what happened is the fake news media, which is back there, you do know that. They're always around someplace. But what happened is the fake news media, what they said is it started with a simple move. How did you lose the election? It was Russia. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, I won this election. What the hell did Russia have to do with it? And then it went, and it was only supposed to be a one-day deal by the Democrats. In other words, it was gonna, but the press picked it up and they liked it. They like, ooh, Russia, that sounds good. You covered it better than ever. You were funny. He'd go, Russia, Russia, Russia. He'd go crazy. But it drove you crazy, didn't it? Because you knew it was such a hoax.
It was so insane, and all these people I knew believed it. It was
such a hoax. They actually tried starting it up about 2 months ago. Did you see? It flopped. This time, the press just couldn't get away with it. I'll tell you about our lawsuit having to do with the Pulitzer. You know, we brought a lawsuit against, because they said the New York Times, Washington Post, they got the Pulitzer Prize for accurate and beautiful reporting on the Russia hoax, you know, the whole thing. And I sued them, and it's doing very well, by the way. I want the reporters to give back their awards because they were wrong. There were plenty of guys that were right, like you and Sean, and there were plenty of guys that were right. But so I said, but here's the thing. So with Shifty Shift, see, that's the weave. See, we start. You know about the weave, right? Start. As long as you come back to the right location. So what happens? You understand that?
Yeah.
Somebody said, does he ramble? I said, I don't ramble. I do the weave. I cover many, many subjects. And you always come back to the right. That's genius. There's a difference between rambling and genius. But, okay. So now getting back to the point. But so I have a son, Don, a good guy, knows nothing about Russia, that has zero. And they went through millions of phone calls. There wasn't one call to Russia, et cetera, et cetera. So Shifty Schiff, Adam Schiff, a real sleazebag, he's at an intelligence meeting, and he's not supposed to be talking, but wherever he goes, the press is out there standing because he's provocative or whatever the hell, or because they figure they'll get something bad on me, which is probably much more accurate. So Schiff comes out. Now think of this, how bad a person you have to be. I have a son, and I love my son. I love all my children. You love your children. I mean, there are a couple of people that, who doesn't love their children? There'll be about 20 people out there. But I have a son, and I love my son. And he's a good boy. He's a good guy. You know Eric, you know Barron. I love my kids. I have good kids. But I love my son. And Schiff goes out. Now think of this. It was him and Crooked Hillary and some other people. They conceived of this hoax. So they know it's a hoax. They know it's not real because it's a made-up story that they conceived, and, you know, they spied on my campaign, all this stuff. But they conceived of the story, so he knows the story is false. And yet he leaves an intelligence meeting, goes to the press, which is waiting outside, a lot of press, and he says something to the effect, Donald Trump Jr., the son of the President of the United States, will be going to jail. He will spend many years in prison for what he's done to our nation. And think of how bad you have to be. He just said that an innocent kid is going to go to prison on a story that's a bacocked story. It's a made-up story. And he said, my son, the president's son, is going to spend many years in prison. I called my son. I said, hey, Don, how's everything? Are you okay with this? He said, Dad, I don't know what they're talking about. He meant that. He said, I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't want to get into it too much because I didn't want to make him nervous. And I said, well, you don't know anything about Russia, do you? He said, Dad, I don't know anything. I have nothing. I don't know what they're talking about. So think of this. It turned out the Mueller report, and I tell you, it was an amazing thing that happened because I had 18 radical left lunatics, and I had Mueller who didn't know where the hell he was, okay? You saw that in the hearings. But think of this. I had no chance. It was a stacked court. but I had an angel in that court. I had somebody that wouldn't allow them to do what some of the sleazebags that you know, and you know who they are. Somebody on that court, and I think I know the person, high quality person, and would not allow them to do what they would have loved to have done, is convict even though you're totally innocent, you didn't even know what the hell. So we were exonerated fully. There was no hoax, there was no anything. We were exonerated fully. But just think of it. Just think, and the Mueller report came out, and it was a complete exoneration. But here's a guy that made up a story that tried to put my son in prison for years. And he knew the story was false. They made it up. How bad a person do you have to be? And I heard the son of the President of the United States is going to jail, and he'll be there for many years on a story. Now, how would you feel if you're the kid? I mean, you're a young kid and you're hearing this crap. Just think of it. But how bad do you have to be? So you know it's fake because he made it up. And you know, he's a storyteller too. You know, he writes little bullshit stories. You know that, right? But I just think they're really, we have some, and you know, I talk about the enemy from within, and they do have, they're the greatest con people in the world. Oh, they talk about how dare, that's a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. You know, the amazing thing is where they say, he wants to become elected, and he wants to put people in jail. How terrible. That's what they've been trying to do to me for 4 years.
And I should say that your son, Don, had 5 small children. Can you imagine threatening a man with 5 kids with prison for a crime he didn't commit? So you said that you were saved in the end by an angel. How have your views about God changed in the last 8 years, and particularly after getting shot?
Well, look, I've always been a believer, but I wouldn't say, you know, there's a certain pastor, Robert Jeffress, and I didn't know, his name is Robert Jeffress, nice guy from Texas. And he said, you know, Trump may not be the best Christian of all, but he's the only one going to take us to the promised land because he's the best leader and he's the toughest guy and he's going to be able to get us through this crazy life. And he was a big supporter, and now I have unbelievable evangelical and Christian support because I've done a great job for them, and we're together. But he said he may not know the Bible quite as well as other people are supposed to, but, you know, he also did something. They picked Ronald Reagan over Jimmy Carter a long time ago. You know that, they said he wasn't quite as religious, but he's the guy that's going to get the job done. And I did a great job with a lot of things having to do with saving religion, because these people want to put religion out of business. These people are, you know, they go crazy when I say the enemy from within. And I said, look, we have China, we have Russia, we have Kim Jong-un of North Korea. We have a lot of people out there. But if you have a smart president, I had a great relationship with President Xi until the China virus came in. And that was a bridge too far, but we'll have a very good relationship. And there's reasons for them to want to like us. There's big reasons. But if you have a smart president that kind of smart, meaning with people, if you have a smart president, somebody that knows what's happening, you're going to be fine. But, you know, we do have an enemy from within. We have some very bad people. And those people are also very dangerous. They would like to take down our country. They'd like to have our country be a nice communist country or a fascist in any way they can. And we have to be careful of that. But they're the greatest con artists in the world, because as soon as I said an enemy from within, they said, he's saying an enemy from within. These are sick puppies, I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, just objectively, I noticed that the second you left and Biden came in, we didn't have any more Antifa riots, which makes me wonder if, how is Antifa not the militia of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, but you did have a lot of riots, and you have a lot of people being hurt in a different way. You have a lot of people being hurt very, very badly. We stopped. You know, we had a period of time where they wanted to tear down statues. Yeah. And, you know, they thought the statue of Abraham Lincoln should be ripped down immediately, and a couple of others. And we stopped him. I signed an old bill that was old and dusty. It was like of 1910, the United Statues Act of like 1910. It said that if you tear down a statue or even get near it, if you don't want it, if up to the president, you go to jail for 10 years. And when they started getting a little bit frisky, I took that old dusty statue, hadn't been used in a long time. We took it out, and they were getting a little wild. You remember that period of time? And I said, I had a little news conference, and I said, anybody that touches a statue, they were going to rip down Andrew Johnson. They were going to rip down Andrew Jackson. And the rope was already on them. And I mean, I saw what was going on. And I signed that thing, and I had a news conference. I said, anybody that touches a statue, if you touch the statue, you go into jail for 10 years with no parole, no early getting out. And I looked, because there was a little discord in Washington. I looked at those people from the back, and I saw those people. I saw about 1,000 asses. They were facing me as they headed out of town. They were heading out of town, and we never heard from them again until recently. When you had about 2 months ago, you had some horrible riots in Washington, D.C., where they took spray paint and they sprayed the limestone lions, and they burned the American flags badly. And, you know, I'd like to see anybody that burns the American flag 1 year in jail. I really believe that.
You mentioned the enemy within. It's pretty clear, well, it's not clear, it's a fact that the CIA and the FBI, which are absolutely not allowed by law to have any influence in American politics, because that's the end of democracy, both of them and a bunch of other intel agencies worked against you on behalf of the Democratic Party from the minute you got elected in 2016. And they're still doing it. They're working against you now. What will you do about that?
So one thing I've learned in Washington, it's all people. You got to get the right people. So when I got elected, I was only, according to the fake news, which I think in this case it wasn't fake, they said I was here 17 times during the course of my life, and I never stayed over. So I wasn't a Washington person. I was a New York person. I knew New York, but I didn't know Washington. And all of a sudden, I'm the president of the United States. I'm saying, and I didn't know anybody. I said, hello, anybody? Does anybody would like to have dinner or something? But, so I had to rely on rhinos and good people, too. Even some good rhinos. There aren't too many of them. They're sort of a dying breed right now, I would say, actually. But I had to rely on people that I didn't know to give me information. And I won't use any specifics, but I had some people in government with me, and I realized, and you know, they have pretty much different philosophies than I would have or than you would have. And for the most part, we had great people. I mean, we had great trade people. I had great military people. I had the real military, not the millies who's they're stupid people. Some of these people, by the way, every one of those people having to do with Afghanistan should be fired immediately. Every general should be fired immediately. You know, Biden doesn't fire anybody. That's why he never has books written about, well, two reasons. Number one, nobody cares about him. It's not like, oh, let's write a book about Biden. Nobody cares. But the other thing is that I don't think he fired anybody. I don't think he's fired. I fired a lot of people. I didn't like people. I fired them. And then he immediately get called by the New York Times or somebody because they're they truly are the enemy of the people. They're the enemy of the people. Those people right there, not all of them, but about 91%, they're the enemy of the people. So they'll say, oh, he got fired, therefore he... And the interesting thing about firing people, you can fire them really nice, like I've taken months nice and easy, have lunch, let's think about it, bah. In the end, they get fired, and then they wake up the next morning, that son of a bitch fired me, right? Or you can do like I did on The Apprentice, you're fired, get the hell out of here. Doesn't matter. When you fire somebody, you fire somebody. I've learned after years, you might as well just fire them. Then I do another thing. I say, and I wouldn't do that again, because I'm a nice person. I don't want to hurt somebody. I say, give me a letter. You know what that means? Give me a letter. I said, look, it's not working out. You're not the guy for me. give me a letter of resignations. I say, give me a letter. Everyone knows what that means. So a guy will write a letter, dear, and then he'll say he quit. And that's okay. That's what I'm, the problem is when that happens with me, it's always a big story. So-and-so quits. Virtually every person that gave me a letter, I said, give me a letter. Virtually every person that quit, they only quit because I said, essentially, you're fired, get the hell out of here. But I want to be nice because I'm not looking to fire somebody publicly. I wouldn't do that anymore. I'm just going to say if somebody doesn't work out, and no matter how good you are, you always have people that don't work out. It's interesting. Sometimes people, you think they're okay, maybe not so great, they turn out to be great. And sometimes you say, this guy is going to be phenomenal, and he turns out to be a stiff. But I had some people that were, like a guy like John Bolton. A friend of mine calls me after I put him on. He said, don't hire that guy. He's no good. He's bad news. He's dumb as a rock and all that stuff. I said, it's a problem, but I like him for a different reason. He's the one that got Bush, him and Cheney and a couple of other of these lunatics. They got them to go into the Middle East and to create war in the Middle East, to spend $9 trillion. Remember, I used to say, don't go into Iraq, but if you do go in, keep the oil. Well, they went in, but they didn't keep the oil. They didn't keep anything. Iraq is a massive oil country. They have $400 billion right now. But I said, don't go in. But I said it as a civilian, so people cared because for whatever reason, I get a disproportionate amount of publicity. And someday he's going to explain to me why. Will you explain that to me? So even as a civilian, sort of, before I ran, but I'd be very much, involved with things and statements. They'd call and ask. But I said, don't go in. They went in. It was such a bad decision. So Bolton, see again, you get back. Bolton, a real dope. But I thought he'd be great because he was so stupid. He was like a boiler. Every time, if somebody shot down a little tiny crappy drone that cost about $15, he'd want to go to war with Russia. I said, no, I think he was great for me, though, for a period of time because he was a nut job. And everybody, I could see his face get red with that stupid white mustache. And he'd be ready to explode. And this was good for me. I went to Kim Jong-un in North Korea. I took this moron with me. And he never said anything. But when Kim Jong-un saw him, he said, oh, shit, I think the guy wants to go to war. So he was great for me to negotiate with. The same thing with Russia. When Putin saw him, I'd be very nice. I'd say, hi, Vladimir, how you doing? And then Putin said, 2 rows back, and it'd see that moron, and it'd say, holy shit, this guy wants to go to war with me. And I got a lot of what I wanted. We killed, as you know, the Nord Stream 2. I killed Nord Stream 2. That's the other thing that's great. Their PR sense, their political sense, very interesting. They love to say that I was a friend of Russia, I worked for Russia, I was a Russian spy. These people are sick. The biggest job Russia ever had is Nord Stream 2. This is the biggest pipeline in the world. Goes from Russia to Germany and all over Europe. I killed it. Nobody would kill it but me. I stopped it. The thing was half built, dead. Then there's obviously, look, in all fairness to Biden, he was dumb 35 years ago. He was a dumb guy. It's true. It's true. But he comes in and he approves it, but he stops the Keystone pipeline, which really we need. That's our pipeline. But think of it.
Wrong country.
Yeah, but think of it. It's rough. It's rough stuff. He stopped. I said, wait a minute, it's supposed to be the other way. Let Keystone go, but stop the Russian pipeline. And I went to the Germany and the different countries, but mostly Germany, and say, so let's get this straight. We're helping you and guarding you from Russia, but you're paying Russia billions of dollars a month for oil. How's that working? That's not working, dude. I mean, the whole concept. Anyway, I stopped it. And then I keep reading stories that, I was a puppet for Russia. Putin actually said to me, if you're a puppet now, I'd hate to see if you were angry because This was the biggest economic job. This was the most important thing that they probably had ever done, and I stopped it. It's all about the people, Tucker. If you have the right people, it goes beautifully. It's like in my real estate business. If I have a good building here, and I have a good superintendent of the building, and that guy's doing a great job, and I've done it over the years with my father, would have a building and another building, and you'd have a great super here and a lousy super there. The one here, the building, everything was perfect. Over here, everything was crappy. So now I say, let's take this super, move them over here. It worked beautifully for there, but not for there, because now all of a sudden that one doesn't. It's all about the people. You gotta put the people in. And if I have any complaint about myself, and I don't really blame myself, because in all fairness, I became president of the United States, and I never did this stuff before, It's pretty good. I never did it before. I was driving down Pennsylvania Avenue with Melania, the new first lady, who's great. People love her. She's got the #1 selling book. Tucker, she's got the number. Melania right now has the #1 selling. Go out and buy it. It's a great book. It really is. But think. So I had never done it before, and I do it. We had 18 people, including me. We had debates, and all of a sudden, we had 17, 16, 15, and they started disappearing. And a lot of people thought I was doing it just for fun. You did. I think Tucker did, too. He thought I was having a good time. I was having actually having a good time. But all of a sudden, did you notice they started to disappear? Then you have 10 people. And then, you had low-energy people. You had a lot of interesting people. And then I came up with nicknames for everybody. And for the most part, they were extremely destructive, right? We had some beauties. We had some, like Pocahontas because I don't use my Republican names anymore because I'm friendly with all those guys. We retired those names. But all of a sudden, they start. And then we get down to 10. So now 8 are gone. And we're down to 10. Remember, we needed 2 stages because there were so many. I said, we have the children's stage, and then we have the grown-up stage. And it was all based on the numbers, the ratings, the numbers, your popularity, how you're doing. So then we're 10, then we're 8, then we're 5, then we're 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And all of a sudden, I'm the nominee, and everyone thought I didn't want to be up, but I did want to be. Don't let them tell you that. They said, he didn't, all these geniuses, they said, he didn't really want to win. He's extremely upset that he would, no. If you're going to play, win, and some people were surprised. But you heard that I didn't want to win, and I was miserable that I won. No, that's a false story. That's their own misinformation, a term I use a lot, and now they use it all over. I always say misinformation, disinformation, and now everybody says that, so I don't use it anymore. But what happens is I end up being the nominee, and then I watch the other side, Bernie Sanders and Crooked Hillary go at it, and it's Crooked Hillary. And all of a sudden, I'm fighting against Crooked Hillary Clinton, who's a smart woman, much smarter than Kamala, but doesn't lie as much. Hillary was a liar, a horrible scoundrel, but this one lies so much. And she's a low IQ individual. She doesn't even know she's lying, I'm telling you. This is not what you want for your president. That has nothing to do with me. This is not what you want. She's a very low IQ individual. She's dumb as a rock, and you can't have that. You can't have that. We love our country too much. You can't have it. We just went through 4 years of it. You can't have any more. A country can only take so much. And then I won, and so the point is that I never did it before, right? I'm president of the United States, and I was never even a politician before. And I picked some great people, Lighthizer and Trade, and we had a lot of great people. But
what's interesting
is it's all about the people. You got to have the right people.
When you ran in 2016, the leaders and heroes of the Republican Party were the Bush and Cheney families. And is it weird for you to see Liz Cheney, that'd be Dick Cheney's repulsive little daughter, running against you with Kamala Harris?
Well, I think it hurts Kamala a lot, actually. Look, she's a deranged person. The reason she doesn't like me is that she wanted to stay in Iraq. She wanted to stay. She wants to tough person. People get killed all over. She's real tough, right? They're not the tough people. Don't forget, I went against her, and in her state, which is a great, beautiful state, she lost for Congress with the highest number in history. There has never been a congressperson that lost by almost 40 points. And the reason is because if they were ever in that situation, they'd quit. And she lost. She was beaten by a tremendous person, actually, tremendous, that I backed fully. But the reason she couldn't stand me is that she always wanted to go to war with people. I don't want to go to war. She wanted to stay in Syria. I took them out. She wanted to stay in Iraq. I took them out. I mean, if it were up to her, we'd be in 50 different countries. And number one, it's very dangerous. Number two, a lot of people get killed. And number three, I mean, it's very, very expensive. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We go, it used to be you go to war to the victor belong the spoils, right? In other words, if you beat a country, you own that country, you take the oil. We go to war, we bomb the crap out of it, and then we leave. It's almost like, what are we doing? What's going on? We bombed the whole Middle East, and then we left. What did we get? We got nothing. We destroyed. I mean, we bombed the hell out of everything. When they took out Iraq for 1,000 years with different names, you had Iran and Iraq, similar powers. They were the two big ones. And for 1,000 years, they would fight each other this way, this way, this way, then they'd rest. This way, then they'd rest. They were a self-check. Then one day we go in and bomb the hell out of one. We destroy one. And then all of a sudden, Iran has the whole Middle East to itself. And by the way, right now, Iran has Iraq. Iraq is like a subsidiary of Iran, all right? We did so many bad moves, and her father was it. Her father was, I was very critical of her father for years. I'd never met him, but I'd say anybody that went into the Middle East I thought was stupid. And they say, convinced Bush. Bush, he was another beauty. But he supposedly convinced Bush to go in, him, Bolton, and some other lightweights, convinced them to go in. Let's go into the Middle East and destroy the whole place and kill millions of people. So they went in. But I was never a fan of Cheney. I was always very critical. And when I announced that, I was very critical, actually, not personally, but I said, he made a horrible mistake. What are these people doing? We spent 9 trillion with a T, not even with a B. Normally I say not million, billion, but now I say not billion, trillion. We spent $9 trillion bombing the hell out of the Middle East. And what the hell did we get other than lots of dead people, all over, including our people? We got nothing. So I was very critical of him. And then I announced I was running, and I was shocked that he was one of the first people. He endorsed me immediately. I said, that's amazing. But he had something that was very interesting. He had Scooter Libby. I mean, these are little stories that are interesting. Scooter Libby was a man that could have done great destruction to Bush, and they left him behind. He was given to the prosecutors. They prosecuted him rather violently, and he was almost like a sacrificial lamb. And as somebody that knows a lot about what's happening, I said, if I were ever president, I'd do something with that guy. That guy got treated very badly, Scooter Libby. And when I became president, I actually called Dick Cheney. I said, let me ask you about Scooter Libby. He was best friends. He was begging Bush to give Scooter Libby a pardon, but Bush didn't have the courage to do it. It takes courage to give a pardon. It does take a certain courage because the press comes after, et cetera, et cetera. And he didn't have the courage to give him. He should have given him a pardon, but he didn't have the guts to do it. But Scooter, and what happened is Dick Cheney, for years, for a long time, hated Bush. And don't let anyone tell you, he hated. He said, you don't leave your wounded behind. And I understand that. And Scooter Libby really saved Bush, because he could have said things that would have been very dangerous for Bush in terms of getting impeached in terms of going to jail, in terms of bad things happening. But Scooter Libby didn't do that. And in all fairness to Cheney, I give him credit for this. He was very loyal to him, but he couldn't get Bush to do what he should have done. I came into government, and I did what they should have done. They didn't have the guts to do it. I did it. And Scooter Libby was pardoned. I gave him a pardon. And I never met Scooter Libby, by the way. Never talked to him before that. And I got a call from Scooter Libby after I did that. And he broke down in tears, thanking me so much. And then Cheney called me, and he said, that was so incredible what you did for Scooter Libby, because he was really on Scooter Libby's. Scooter Libby took a lot of heat and took all of it and didn't say anything bad about Bush or Cheney or anything else. Could have done it, I know, because you have guys that do that, and you have guys that lie, which is worse, right? But you have guys that do that. But he was very loyal to them, and he suffered greatly. I released him. Cheney called me. He said, it's one of the nicest things I've ever seen done in politics. I said, look, I've heard for years he was treated unfairly. I've heard for years that Bush should have given him a pardon. All I did is do something that somebody else should have done. And Cheney was so, he said, I really want to thank you. He said, now I'm so glad that I actually endorsed you. It's amazing, but that you would do this. And I didn't speak to him about it. But then, go a couple of years forward or go now. And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people. So whether it's her, whether it's Dick, I was surprised a little bit with Dick Cheney. I didn't know him at all. I only had essentially the 1 or 2 phone calls, and it was only a call saying, thank you very much for doing that for Scooter Libby. That was nice. And Scooter Libby, by the way, was beyond that. He couldn't believe that it happened. Nobody would do it. They should have done that for him years before. But I was a little surprised because I actually thought that Dick Cheney would go with me over his daughter, and he didn't. And you know what? I understand it. It's your daughter, and you go. But she's a bad person. One other thing, they had the J6 committee, and I say this for the fake news back there. They learned a lot of phony things, like that I took on when I was in the car. Take me to the Capitol, I said, according to this young lady. And then they said, sure, we won't do that. Well, number one, if I said it, they do it. But I had 2 people, Secret Service guys, both extremely rough guys. One was like a karate champion, one was a weightlifter. She said, I grabbed the one by the neck, and when I was rebuffed, I went over to the other one, and I grabbed him in a chokehold or something. And actually, no, but how ridiculous, okay? It's just not my thing. You would know. Hey, we can be tough, but it's not my thing. I wouldn't do it. I said, actually, can we go down to the Capitol? They said, sir, it's better if we don't. This was before anyone knew there was a problem, because there's a lot of people and it's going to be tough. Probably not. And we had more people than I've ever seen up at the ellipse up on top. And a small group went down to the Capitol. But I said, can you take? They said, sir, it's really a little bit tough. I said, that's okay. Whatever you think is. She had me grabbing the one around the neck and being rebuffed. And then I grabbed the other one. And I know them both very well. Bobby. I know Bobby wins, Bobby. And they're good. And they're good guys, too, but they're tough guys. I think they probably could have rebuffed me. I'm a little bit older. But friends of mine love the story. They said, leave the story. You sound like the toughest dude around. It's a great story. But it was totally made up. It was all made up. But here's the end result. The J6 committee, they call it the J6 Select Committee, like select. They're not select, they're scum. So what happens, take a look at them, they're all political hacks. But here's the thing that bothers me. They found out all this stuff was untrue. They found out her story was untrue. The two guys in the car testified. It's ridiculous, they said. It is ridiculous. Can you imagine? They also, I think, said it was the Beast, and it wasn't. It was one of the other ones. But you can't even get your hands through. But to think that I would be taking on two nice young guys simultaneously. All right, Sam, I'm ripping one and ripping the other. They're crazy. And then I went back to the White House, which I love, and I started throwing hamburgers all over the place. Okay. Finish the story is this. What happened is terrible. They went a year and a half, and Kevin McCarthy, who's a very nice man, he made a mistake because we wanted Jim Banks and Jim Jordan on the committee, and so there'd be like 8 to 7 or something. And called me on this. He said they didn't want Jim Jordan. He's a fighter. They didn't want Jim Banks. He's a fighter. And so Kevin said, we don't want anybody on the committee. We think this committee's a sham. And I understood that was good for a day, but for the 2.5 years, we had nobody to fight for us. In other words, we had a committee. You know who was representing us on the committee? Crying Adam Kinzinger and Liz, the moron Cheney. That was who was on the committee. So these were the two Republicans. Kinzinger, who was a total whack job, and Cheney, who was worse than him. This was so they talk about it was a bipartisan, they call it a bipartisan commission. And I think I'd never liked the idea of not, because even if you didn't have Jim Jordan, who's very good, and Jim Banks, we have a lot of great people that would have been good, and they would have, they would have mixed it up. End result, like, they finished their report, they burned and destroyed and deleted everything. Everything. And nobody, and you know why? Because they found out that Nancy Pelosi, it was her fault. She didn't put the security. I offered 10,000 National Guard or military. They found out it was Nancy Pelosi. They found out that the stories about me attacking two very tough guys that are slightly younger than me, just a few years, that wasn't true. They found out that much of it wasn't true, and they were very embarrassed. So the Unselect Committee, I call it the Unselect Committee, which I always thought was a great name because it was a select, I call it the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs. What happened is, think of it, end of the story, they deleted and destroyed all evidence, all documents. There's nothing. And the reason they did it is because they were guilty as hell. It's the greatest cover-up, and the fake news back there will not cover it. They've never even, I think, done a story. In other words, when you go into court, we want that information. There is no information. It's been destroyed. Everything's been destroyed. We have a very crooked government. Remember that. And we're going to straighten it out, and we're going to make it an honest government.
So I have to ask you about the pardons. I keep hearing you're considering pardoning Hunter Biden. Is that true? And if so, why?
No, I mean, I've never... look, I don't like the idea of what's happening. I don't like it at all. They've weaponized government, but they've weaponized it against me like nobody's ever been weaponized. The big case was the documents case. We won the case in Florida. We're winning other cases, too. But I've had to devote money and time to this. Instead of running against these stupid people, I had to devote a lot of money and a lot of time, which is what they want. I had Fani, F-A-N-I. To me, it's Fanny, but she said Fani. I think she changed it once she became the DA. She wanted to put a little French accent on Fani. And her lover boy, Wade, who was hired for like $1 million because of his expertise in whatever the hell law, RICO. But he never did a RICO case. And then they would take sailing trips like 6 times during the year, 6 times. Who the hell goes away or to sail for 6 times? Nobody. And he got paid a lot of money. He took that money, they took trips. You know, there's a whole thing, but that's just one. They totally controlled it. They control the Manhattan DA's office. They had their man in the Manhattan DA's office. He was there. They put a man in the Manhattan. They put a man into the Letitia James' office. They had a guy running the whole thing. It's all run out of Washington. They went after, in the Attorney General's office, they had people. But think of it, they went after their political opponent. That's never happened to any great extent. Maybe a little bit someplace, I don't know, nobody knows of it. But it's never happened to any great extent in this country. It happens in banana republics a lot, and it happens in third world countries, but it's never happened. They went after their political opponent. So it's hard to believe that I'm winning, it seems, by a lot. If they don't cheat too much, you know, we found a lot of things over the last 3 days. You've seen that. We found a lot of votes, and in a certain county, in York County, Lancaster County, you know, we found a lot of bad votes. There were 2,600 votes that happened to be written by the same pen, same hand, same signature, same everything. Maybe there's an explanation for that. 2,600 votes. But we found a lot of stuff, but we're seeing to work it out. But think of it. It's hard to believe that I'm winning the election by a lot. Now, we got to keep the cheating down. We got to keep their cheating. I love you too, darling. Thank you. We got to keep their cheating down. But think of this. With all I've been through, with these animals coming and what they've done to this country, how they've hurt this country between the borders and between the weaponization. And think of it. I'm leading by a lot. I'm leading in every single swing state with all of the stuff they've done, where I've spent millions of dollars. I've spent millions of dollars on legal fees. Half of my time is taken up by this. They can campaign. Half of my time is taken up. And they're the dishonest ones. They flip it. They're the dishonest ones. But it's hard to believe. I said to somebody last night, can you believe the numbers came out last night? I'm really leading by quite a bit. Now, a lot of things can happen. Who knows? It flips, maybe. I don't know. But I'm leading by a lot. I said, can you believe I'm leading by a lot, and what they've done to me, that I'm leading at all, that I'm even living, is almost hard to believe. These are bad people.
So you've expanded and changed the Republican Party, and one of the amazing things that I have learned is that Republican voters really care about issues I didn't realize they cared about, like clean air, clean soil, clean food. You've won, somehow, the full-throated endorsement of Bobby Kennedy, lifelong Democrat, who's now like a full-time surrogate for you.
He's a very, very good man, too, by the way.
So what's that going to look like after you get elected?
Well, you know, I feel interesting about this kind of stuff. I like to, number one, get elected. I hate to talk to stuff. A lot of people, they set up, I know that even when I ran, Hillary had an office set up where they were interviewing all the, I don't want to do that. I want to get elected first, and then we'll cram a little bit. But, you know, I don't like doing it. No, I remember she set up this big office. They're interviewing people for jobs. And actually, you're supposed to do it. But I want to win. I want to win in 5 days from now. It's almost 4 days from now, right? In 5 days from now, when we have a victory, we're going to have the best people. Here's the one difference, one big difference between now and 2016. I know Washington and the people through testing, real testing, better than probably any human being that's ever hired people. So I went from not knowing anybody and having to rely on, in all fairness, Mike Pence and many other people. I had Mike Pence, and I had others, and they would recommend people. Sloppy Chris Christie recommended some people. And I wouldn't have used him had I known. But you rely on people. And by the way, you know, I hate talking about this because we had mostly great people. Think of it. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We rebuilt the entire U.S. military. We defeated ISIS, and we had no wars. We cut more regulations than anybody in the history of the country times 5. And, you know, but we had the best economy in the history of our country. I took in billions and billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs from China. I mean, we had an unbelievably successful administration. We were energy independent. We didn't need anybody's energy. We had so much oil, we didn't know what to do with it. And now take a look. 4 years ago, we were energy independent. Think of it. And today we're taking tar from Venezuela. You know, they don't really have oil, they have tar. You have to heat the hell out of it. It costs you more to heat it than it does to sell it. But we are going to Venezuela. Think of it. Venezuela was like the enemy. We are now giving, you know, I got a kick a month ago, you saw it. They foreclosed on his plane, but they give him billions of dollars. I said, that's okay. He's going to buy a much better plane with the money we give him, right? But we go to Venezuela for oil. We were energy independent. We have more liquid gold, that's oil and gas, under our feet than Saudi Arabia, than Russia. And we were going to be not only energy independent, within 6 months, we were going to be energy dominant. We started off at number 4. And when I left, 4 years later, we were number 1. We were much better and bigger than Russia or Saudi Arabia. Think of that. But we were going to be triple the size of both. And we were going to supply it to Europe. We were going to supply it to Asia. All over the world we were going to supply. We would have made a fortune. But then we had a little mishap with the election where I got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country. You do know that. More than any sitting president. The only one that supposedly got more votes, and I wouldn't believe it, was Sleepy Joe Biden, who campaigned brilliantly from his basement. People had no interest in this guy, but he got more votes than anybody in the history of the United States of America. So anyway, so bad things happened, but we had something going that nobody had. I mean, we had an unbelievably successful administration, but I also put in some people that, in retrospect, I wouldn't have used, but I had to rely on other people for recommendations. Now, I know everybody. I know the dumb ones, the smart ones, the weak ones, the strong ones. I think I know everybody. And, you know, I've got people that I think will be great. With that being said, you pick people and sometimes they disappoint you. Everybody knows that. And then you pick people and sometimes they turn out to be better than you thought. But for the most part, I tell you what, I think we have some incredible people in Washington. We really do. We have some great people, and I now know, I believe, for the most part, I know who those people are.
Do you think Bobby Kennedy and Elon Musk will be influential figures, without being specific about what those roles will be, in your administration?
Yeah, I do. I think so. Look, Bobby, let's talk two of them. Elon's so great. You know where he is right now? He's in Pennsylvania campaigning for me. Elon. That rocket ship, right? No, it's so great. He docked that big monster, 22 stories. I thought the sucker was going to be done. It's a very crazy story. I mean, I saw it coming in on television. I was talking to I told the story tonight, but I thought it was I'm talking to this very important guy, not as important as Tucker, but important. A big shot. Somebody everybody would know. Talking to him, I'm bored, stiff. He's a boring guy.
Oh, who is he?
So anyway, no, I'm talking to this very big shot, important guy, and I have the television muted. This thing's going on. You know, the whole thing was really boring. Then I see this monster thing coming down, I see fire all over, fire left, right. And I'm looking, I'm saying, hey, could you hold it a minute? Yeah, sure. I said, yeah, I just want to see something. I put the phone down. I sort of forgot, and I didn't pick him up for like 50 minutes, and 5-0. And you know what? Because of the fact that I was president, and I very well might be president again, he held on the whole time. Can you believe it? But it's true. I pick the phone up, I say, oh shit, the phone. Hello? Hello? He goes, hello? The poor guy. But I had to see this. And I turn it on, I see the, now you have to understand, it left, I saw it leave, and it was beautiful white paint. Now it's coming down, and it's just dark brown. It's coming down at 10,000 miles an hour or something. I think it's 10,000. It's coming down at levels of speed that nobody ever even conceived of. And it's all burned, and it's rough. But it's coming, and now it's turned around. It turns around. And you have the gantry, the big, beautiful gantry. And it's coming, and it's going to, I said, oh, it's going to crash, because you see at that bottom, this section right here, that sucker's, oh, I'm going, come on, baby. Come on. And I didn't know, actually, if I'm watching a science fiction movie or am I watching the news, I didn't know what the hell I'm watching. But I see this thing coming down, and all of a sudden, it's going into the steel, the big steel gantry up here. It goes to things like 20 stories tall, too. It's going to crash. I said, oh, shit, it's going to crash. Coming down. And the lower section, right, it's coming right. It's ready. And then all of a sudden, whoa, fire, flames come pouring out of the lower section. It's jets. And they're pushing it over right here. And then it comes down. And I'm saying, I mean, is that the coolest thing you've ever seen, right? Is that the coolest? If you don't think I want a guy like that working for us, so, we've got to cherish our brilliant people. They don't treat him right. We've got to cherish our brilliant people, because we don't have too many of them. Nobody does. Nobody does. So, Elon, talk Elon first. Elon wants to, by the way, I'm having a great time up here. Are you having a good time? This guy. Is he the greatest interviewer? He asked me one little question. I talked for 20 minutes, and they're going to say he's better than Larry King at his prime, right?
It's an easy job.
Is that the greatest?
you're an easy interview.
He is great at what he does. There's few like him, I will tell you that. So with Elon, here's a theory, and he's right, that there's unbelievable waste and fraud. Like, I saved much more than $1 billion when I came into the White House in one day, when I said I'm not going to pay that much to Boeing for Air Force One. And they ended up taking much more than $1 billion off the price. It took about a couple of weeks, saying I'm not buying it. No, I don't want it. But there's a plane that you're saving much more than $1 billion. And you've got thousands of things like that. Not as much, and in some cases, much more. They're building an aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford. The thing came in like at $20 billion for a boat, $20 billion. And it doesn't work because they decided to use electric catapults that throws the planes off instead of steam. They decided to go electric. Why are they people that going all electric? By the way, I'd end the electric mandate on cars day one. You should have electric, but you got to have gasoline, you got to have everything. That'll come off on day one. Many things will be done on day one. Your head will spin when you see what's going to happen, the stupidity. But what I like about Elon, Elon's a great cost cutter. And Elon thinks he can cut the costs of our government by $2 trillion. Think of it. That's the entire deficit, because it's now at a level. By the way, we have the biggest deficit we've ever had under this stupid group of people. But he thinks he can cut $2 trillion without affecting anybody, just through, and I think he can do that. I do, I believe that. And that's really what he wants to do. He doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to become a secretary of something. I'd love to have him, to be honest with you. But He doesn't want to. He's doing a couple of other things, you know, like rocket ships. You know, he sends 92% of the rockets that go up are his rockets. Think of that. Russia, China, and us, 92% are him. And he's the only one. I asked him, I said, are you the only one that can do that? He's the only one that can land it like that. And he said it'll be years before they can do it. He's a great guy. He wants to cut costs. That's what he wants to do. He wants to save the country. He said that if Trump doesn't get elected, the country is finished because, you know, he understands me. And I understand. I got to know him a little bit in the White House, but much more so over the last few months. He endorsed me. He gave me an endorsement that was so beautiful. He said, if Trump doesn't win, I think this country is finished. He's worried about the country. He's worried about it. He thinks he can save $2 trillion, in which case we don't have a deficit. I mean, the whole thing would be $2 trillion a year, by the way, a year. And I will definitely, now, Bobby is great. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about with Bobby, so I want him to work on health, and I think there's nobody like it. I mean, I think he's right with so much of the things he's talking about, because, you know, we're not a healthy country. If you look at some of the countries in Europe, they're much more healthy than us. We're a rich country. I mean, you know, we got to get rid of a little debt, but that's okay. I've typically been very good at that. I've been very proficient at that. I've had it both ways. I've had a lot of debt, and I've had very little debt. And as you get older, having very little debt is much better, believe me. But you know what? He really wants to, with the pesticides and the, you know, all the different things. I said he can do it. He can do anything he wants. He wants to look at the vaccines. He wants everything. I think it's great. I think it's great. The only thing I say to Bobby is, leave the liquid gold under our feet alone. We want to have a little gasoline. Because you know what I'm going to do? We're going to unleash much of that. And we're going to, you know, Germany tried to go all green and they almost destroyed their country. And that was the end of Angela, by the way. That was it for Angela. They went all green. They had windmills all over the place. And the wind stopped blowing for a couple of weeks. And that was almost the end of Germany, actually. But the only thing, and I say it jokingly, but I say, Bobby, I love you looking at health. I want you to take care of the women of this country, the men of this country, and the children of this country. You don't have to worry about anybody else. But the one thing you got to do for me, Bobby, is leave what's under my feet, the oil and gas. You leave that to me, Bobby, because we're going to make so much damn money, and it's clean. It's going to make it clean. We're going to make, you know, look, China doesn't have that. That's why China's going electric. If we go electric, we're playing right into their hands. We have oil and gas. They don't. They have things for making the batteries and other things. They're going to make the electric cars. We're not going to be making the electric cars. The problem with the electric cars, and I think they're great in a smaller application, they don't go far, they cost too much, and they're going to be made in China. 3 minor problems, okay? But if you listen to this government, they want to make army tanks electric because they want to invade countries with their army tanks in a very friendly way from the pollution standpoint. The whole thing. You know what you have to do? The batteries are so big, they have a design where the army tank is going in and they have like a wagon, like a child's wagon with these massive batteries.
We're going to have these green wars?
These people are crazy. No, they want trucks to be all electric. The problem is they don't go far. That's a problem. You know what else is a problem? So the trucking industry comes to see me because they think I'm going to win. And they come in to see me. And these guys come in, and they're great guys. They've been in like Roger Penske. How good is Roger Penske? The guy's won, but he's in the trucking business too. He's won like 19 Indianapolis 5. Think of how good this guy is. Japan spends billions on coming up with a race car. Germany spends billions. I don't know if they've ever won, maybe 1 or 2. Roger Penske is an incredible guy. He won 19 Indianapolis 500s. It might even be 20. That was 2 years ago. I gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom because I said he deserves it. After the 19th, I said he deserves it. But the truckers came in to see me. They say, sir, they want us to go all electric and it'll destroy the industry. Why? Because a truck is 2.5 times heavier if it's run by a battery. I said, that's not good. I don't like that. What does that do to the bridge? He said, how did you pick it up so fast, sir? Every bridge in the United States would have to be rebuilt. Every roadway would have, because they're not set for that kind of weight. Little problem. They don't go far, right? They only go. I said, how many times would you, New York to LA, how many times would you have to stop? 6 times, sir, 6. How many times would you have to stop if you loaded up with diesel fuel? We wouldn't have to stop at all, and we can come back a little bit of a ways, too. I said, that's a problem. They have a lot of problems, right? Another problem is the battery is much bigger than the tanks of diesel, so it would take a lot of their payload out. You know? I said, have you explained this to the government? Yes. What do they say? We don't care. We want all electric. You know, I mean, these are problems that fairly short-term are absolutely insurmountable, but the government is pushing them anyway. So we have to bring common sense back to our country. We have to have borders. We have to have fair elections. You know, we shouldn't be worried about how they're stealing in Pennsylvania and how we should have fair elections. We should have one-day elections, all paper ballots, voter ID, and we're finished.
So I know you've been up, your schedule is, and this is not a talking point, your schedule is beyond belief, and I know you've been working since 6 a.m. this morning. I don't even know what time it is or what time zone we're in. So this is my last question to you. But after almost 10 years of doing this, going around the country, speaking to huge audiences, almost a decade, you're 4 days from, that's it. How do you, are you sad about that? How do you feel?
So, you know, we have these rallies, and it's nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter. Isn't it really nice? And because you can't have successful rallies if you're reading, oh, they were, wah. Everybody would pick up, and we have great, we're the greatest rallies. Even look at this crowd, although I would assume they're here for Tucker, mostly Tucker. Look at this crowd of people you have here. This is not a normal. This isn't normal.
People, too.
No, this isn't a normal situation. I mean, what the hell time is it? And you go back, this is a monster building. I don't know how many people you have here, but you also have a lot of people outside. When we were driving up, there are thousands of people outside. So I was making a route a couple of days ago, and I said something that I've never said. I said, you know, I've been doing this for 9 years, and you've been with me. This is the greatest political movement in history, by far. By far. It's MAGA. It's called Make America Great Again. I'm going to be nice to him. When our president. No, when our slightly off. I mean, look at the way he performed in the debate. They should have never taken it away from him. Look at the way he performed. He was brilliant. Okay, so, but they knew that a long time ago, okay? And she knew that too. And our country's in danger. We're dealing with Kim Jong-un. We're dealing with we're dealing, by the way, with unbelievably smart, talented, vicious people that are at the top of their game. And we're dealing with people that, number one, aren't smart. They never were. They never were. She wasn't. She was a bad student. She couldn't pass her damn law exam, okay? She wasn't smart, and he was definitely not smart. And we're dealing with other people that are at the absolute top of the poll, and we can't do that. That's a great danger, and people should have let us know. But I was talking, and I said, we've been doing this together for 9 years. You know, we love these people. The people are so great. They were sitting, it was like a sea of red, the red hat. And I said, we've been doing this together for 9 years because, you know, a year before I started, in terms of before we won, almost a year anyway. And I said, you know what? It's sad in a way because there's never been rallies like this. When that sleazebag said during the debate, she said, oh, your rallies aren't well attended and people leave. They don't leave, and they're really well intended. We can't get places big enough. And then I said, I said, no, you know, the rallies are the biggest in history. We never have it, just like this is a part of a rally. We never had an empty seat, and nobody leaves early. And you know what? If I saw people leaving, you know what I'd do? Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna make America great again. Goodbye, everybody, and everybody would be happy. Nobody would leave, but we don't have to do that. Nobody leaves. It's a love fest. It's never happened before. This has never happened before. He's a big fan of Ronald Reagan, so am I, but if Ronald Reagan, let's say, went to New Mexico like I did today, we probably had 25,000 people standing in an airport early in the morning today. But we have massive crowds. Look, we had 107,000 people in New Jersey. We had 101,000 people in Butler just a few weeks ago, right? We had 114,000 people in California a month ago, right? 114,000. The owner said, the person that has the land, a nice guy, he said, you get bigger crowds than these guys that play guitars, and I don't have a guitar. So this has been a love fest. But I said, and I meant it too, I said, you know, we've done this for 9 years, and it's sad. I never thought of it, actually. It'll never happen. It'll never happen again. It's never going to happen again. In 4 years, somebody's going to be running. Could be JD. It could be this one. By the way, he's doing a good job.
The best.
He's doing a good job, but it could be JD, and he'll have competition no matter what. But when you have a rally, they're going to have 250 or 300 people. If Ronald Reagan came back from the dead at the height of Ronald Reagan, if he went to California to have a rally, he'd have 250, 300 people in a ballroom someplace. We have 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 people. And in all fairness, we're late. I don't know. I have no idea. I've been doing this all day. I have no idea what time it is. But I know it's not exactly prime time for doing this stuff. And you look up into the rafters of this massive building, and you don't have, there's no empty seat. There's no anything. It's by the way, and for whatever reason, I can't explain the reason, but it'll never happen again. And there'll be somebody running, and he'll be the hot one next year, and he'll come here, and he'll go there, and he'll have 200, 300 people. That's what it's going to be. My consultants was telling me that. Said, we've consulted for 25 years. If we'd have 300 people, we were thrilled. If we'd have 200 people, we were thrilled. And you have like 30, 40, 50, 60. In South Carolina, we had 88,000 people. In Alabama, we had 68,000 people. It's an amazing phenomenon. And I'm not giving myself, it's just, I'm giving you the credit. You're tired of being the stupid country. We've become a stupid country. We were run by stupid people, and you're tired of it. So I said to myself the other day, Tucker, it's sad. And I was telling the people, because it'll never happen again. This is never going to happen again. I don't care. I just don't believe it. It's never happened in any country. When Biden got up with the red background, the pink background, and he looked like the devil, he looked so stupid, right? And he said, we will stop MAGA. MAGA, we're going to... I said, listen, you stupid bastard. MAGA means, because I think if you asked him what does it mean, he doesn't know. MAGA means make America great again. That's what MAGA means. So, for the first time, I never said it to anybody. I never really thought about it that much. But all of a sudden, it was down to like maybe 10 or 8 or 9 days, a few days ago, right? I said, you know, in 10 days, this will never happen again because I'm not running again, and you're going to lose interest. We're going to meet, but we're going to meet on a different basis. We're going to meet on the basis of fixing our country, and we'll meet, but it'll be different than having rallies and having, you know, things where you have elections and all. It's never going to be what we've done together. We got to win, first of all, but we are leading. Just keep the cheating down. The only thing can stop us is the cheating. It's the only thing that can stop us. If we win, it's the biggest event in political history. It's the biggest event in political history. But And there's something, and it's going to be the most important. I believe that the next election is the most important election in the history of the country. I really believe that. The one that's coming up in 4 days. But I said to myself, it's sad. I told the people. Some people are in the road, they're crying. They go, we have people that have gone to 200 and 250 rallies. We have the beautiful ladies of North Carolina. We have the front row Joes. I mean, we have people that have gone to hundreds of rallies. I said, this will never happen again. I don't believe it will. I don't think it'll ever happen again. And we'll get together, but it'll be different. We're going to get together and we're going to make America great again. We're going to fix our country. We're going to have strong borders and we're going to have fair elections and hopefully we'll get a fair press eventually because that's a very important element. You need a fair press. He and I understand the press because you give them a story, you know exactly everything that happened, and they'll write it the opposite, like the exact opposite. They'll write it to actually hurt you. It's hard to believe. That's the other thing. You wonder, why do they do that? It's so bad. And they've lost such credibility. You know, when I first came to politics, the news, the press, had a 92% approval rating. Yesterday, it hit 14%. And I'm actually very proud of that because I've exposed them for being a total fraud. They're a fraud. But hopefully they won't be a fraud for long. Hopefully that'll straighten out because that's a very important, the press, a free press, a real press is a very important part of greatness, of making a country great. They're almost like, they're glue that keeps it together, but they're also like, in a way, a police force that keeps it honest. But they're so dishonest that they have no credibility. Think of it. 60 Minutes asks her question. And you know, I brought a lawsuit on this today. You saw that? 60 Minutes, because it's so wrong. She gives an answer that only a moron would give. You can give bad answers, but this was an answer that a person who is not a smart person, a person who got the lowest score, perhaps in the history of the bar exams, okay? You know, she failed the bar exam, okay? But this is a person, this is a very low IQ individual. This is the answer of a very low IQ individual. And by the way, I think everybody that runs for president or vice president should have cognitive tests. They should have testing because, you know, and I don't mean by age. Because, you know, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s, in the 80 period, because there is an experience thing and other things. Some of the greatest leaders in history, you look back, and I know many people that are in their 80s that are, I know one person from 80 to 90 made billions of dollars, and he was a failure for his whole life. And you know him, I'll tell you who it is later. But he was a failure for his whole life. But I said to myself, it's sad that in a way, this whole great thing that we've built is never going to happen again. But what is going to happen again is we're going to turn our country around, we're going to make it great, and we're going to be so proud of ourselves because we have to save our country. Our country is going bad. We're a failing nation. We are, as I say, we are a nation in decline. We are a nation in very serious decline. And look at what these stupid people have done. They've allowed Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and others to get together in a group. This is impossible to think. When I was a young guy, I always loved the whole thing, the concept of the history and all of the things that can happen. The one thing, and I had a professor at the Wharton School of Finance, but we had history classes also. He said, the one thing you never want to happen is you never want Russia and China uniting. We united them because of the oil. We united them. Biden united them. It's a shame. The stupidity of what they've done. Well, I'm going to have to ununite them, and I think I can do that too. I have to ununite them. But early on, I've read, and you've learned, you never want Russia and China, and they're natural enemies because Russia has massive land and China needs it. Okay? They need that land. China doesn't have the land for the population. Russia has, if you ever look at the size of the Russian landmass, it's like 4 times or 5 times. doesn't it have like 12 time zones or something? It's massive. They're a natural enemy, and we've allowed them to get together. It's such a dangerous thing. Another thing that we're doing is we're losing the dollar as the standard because of these people that are so, if we lose the dollar as the standard, that's like losing a war, and it'll never happen with me. There's no way that will happen with me. We got to put it back together. We cannot, that is like losing a war. So we're going to get together, and hopefully we'll get together a lot, but we're going to get together, and I think it's going to be very happy times. We're going to put our country back together, and we're going to make it the greatest country in the world again. And you're going to be very proud of all these rallies that we had. And I just want to thank you for being here so late in the evening. I've been doing this all day, and this guy is fantastic.
President Donald J. Trump, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
If he dances, I'm going to scream. Don't tell him you still have the energy to dance. Don't do that. Don't. You're making me feel bad already. Well, they didn't play YMCA, so it's different. It's a different tune. He wasn't ready for that one. If it was a dance tune, I think he would light it up. Whew. Whew. I'm gonna have to go jump in the pool. Do something. Kamala's toast. That's all I can say. Oh my gosh. Well, the press is going to try and jump on that sleazebag comment out of the entire 3 hours that he talked. Oh, yeah, he said this one word. Yeah, he called her sleazebag. Well, he didn't call her the other word, whatever. So, somehow, I'm not going to waste your time anymore. I'm going to have to read the super chats, and then I'm going to because we got 2 more of these tomorrow so far. We're supposed to have 2 today, and then another one popped up. So who knows what he's going to do? We're never going to see another politician like this ever. This guy is legendary, historic. Insert whatever word you want to insert at this point. It's simply phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. We'll never see anything like this again. It's just incredible. So thank you for sticking it out all night with me. 3 shows. Thank you very, very much. Let me get to these super chats. Those of you that want to bounce, go ahead and bounce. Thanks for hanging out all evening. And let's get to this so I can get you guys dismissed. Oh, before I do that, if you're not tired and you want to look at some more content, go ahead and jump in our private membership group. It's free at fanfareshop.org/group. It will take you right to the group on X. All right, that being said, let's go here. Mama Mima, wow, J.D. Vance, Joe Rogan was amazing. That's probably what he was trying to do. Now that I think about it, Joe Rogan and J.D. Vance did 4 hours, and Trump probably said, wait a second, I got to hit that. Sheila, thank you, voted red all day today. Carolyn Pulliam, her Dems are going to try to disqualify Trump. They're going to try everything. They know they can't beat this man. It's over. Barb RN, love watching you. You're very special. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Carolyn Chambers, thank you. Andrew Dopazzo, thanks, Barry. We put on a great show, and I really appreciate all that you do. I appreciate you guys watching. Vance Bridges, Barry, it doesn't matter who wins. God is still on the throne. Absolutely. Patricia Hurley, looks like a Eurodollar. I'm very grateful for all you do. Ireland here, learned a lot from Barry. 2:30 a.m. here. You do a great job. 2:30 in the morning. Wow, it's only 1:30 here. Karen Pulliam again. Yes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. MAGA Mama, happy Halloween. Oh yeah, no kids knocked on the door. Well, that's because we... Jeremiah Kerr, we have a hard-on for trolls that won't go away. We call it the red pill. Yep, exactly. Hopefully I'll have a voice tomorrow. Heartland Lady, God bless you as well. Mr. Krabs, happy Halloween. Thank you. Cajun Scully, JFK 2028. Love you, Bobby. I think you meant RFK. Logic or not, being American, vote Trump. D-Lad, there's a difference between rambling and genius. Yeah, he wasn't rambling. There wasn't any missed points. That man was quick to recall. Wow. They'll try to paint it that way because they have to. Must Love Dogs, thank you. Stephanie, thank you. John Zeller. My daughter went out tonight in a garbage bag with Trump 24 painted at it. That's awesome. Big Cat again, thank you. Yes, always good when Barry's on doing a show. Maga's got the best people. Yes, I think we do. Must Love Dogs. We protect women's rights. Millions of women hating men from countries. It's normal to unalive women in the streets. Yeah, there's some bad stuff happening. Must Love Dogs. Again, please get necessities and food. War with several countries a hair away. I've been telling you, prep. Logic or not, I hear Bob Marley singing Three Little Birds as Trump glides. Good song. Georgia Caddy, you're a true patriot and Christian. Thank you. Thank you to the mods for your great work and to your wife for sharing you with us. Yeah, tonight she just said she gave me that, and then my dog's sitting over here, paws up in the air, sleeping. The Range, thanks for staying up late, Barry. Thanks for tuning in. Mega Mama, thank you. Please get you and Miss Robin a coffee. Now she's done for the night. I'm going to have to wind down, and I got to wait until this thing processes so I can delete RFK Jr.'s speech. Big Cat rallies tomorrow, too. Yep, I'm excited. Georgia Cat Lady, fight, vote, never surrender. Andy Q, thank you. Love from the UK. Keep it up. And then there's one here that I missed. This is from Arizona Guy. Hello, Arizona Guy. Thank you. Happy Halloween. Thanks for the treat. It's time for Bring America Back into the shining city on the hill. Yes, that's true. Thank you. We're at 3 hours and 42 minutes. And you guys all stayed to the end. That's absolutely phenomenal. Have a great evening. Get some rest. I'll be back here at, looks like 4 p.m. tomorrow. I'm going to sleep in, chill, not do anything until at least 2 o'clock. Love you guys for tuning in. Thank you. See you tomorrow.